Chapter 370. The day Xia Chang'an left Sea City, the sky was gloomy and there was even a drizzle. This really was a day of parting. The train station was filled with parents sending their students off. Yi Kanhuan didn't understand Xia Chang'an's choice. He originally thought that Xia Chang'an would stay in Sea City. Who knew that this guy would apply to a law university in the south when he wasn't paying attention? Was he planning on becoming a lawyer in the future? Other than Xia Chang'an's parents and Yi Kanhuan, Su Wan and Su Qingmei also came to the train station to send Xia Chang'an off. Su Qingmei knew that Xia Chang'an studied finance in his past life, but in this life, he got into another university's law faculty with excellent grades. It seemed like this world was really different from the one she experienced. Su Qingmei originally thought that she was the female lead who was reborn with a golden finger. She thought that she could torture scumbags and find a good man to live with. But now, she was at a loss. If this world wasn't her original world, then what was the point of persevering? Now that Xia Chang'an was about to get on the train heading south, should she confess to him? In her past life, Su Qingmei was the first to confess to Xia Chang'an and immediately captured the young man's heart. But now, when she was reborn, she told herself to hold on to this good man tightly. But now, she suddenly realized that everything was different. Su Qingmei hesitated. Did she love Xia Chang'an? Did she? Su Qingmei didn't know. After she was reborn, she kept telling herself to stay away from Gao Yu and hold on to Xia Chang'an. But in reality, did she love Xia Chang'an? No. She couldn't make do with love. Love was love. If she didn't love, then she didn't love. She was just regretful and regretful. Regretful that she didn't meet a good man. Regretful that she was greedy and vain. When the train roared and left, Su Qingmei hesitated when she saw the jade-like young man reach out his hand to say goodbye to everyone. In the end, she didn't say anything. She missed it in her past life. What about this life? She'd just go with the flow. On the way back, Su Qingmei walked in front with a heavy heart. Yi Kanhuan, who had been purposely dragging his steps, couldn't help but look at Su Wan. I thought that the female lead would confess to him before leaving. Damn. She didn't even follow the script. Can't we have fun? This is the truest life. Su Wan glanced at Yi Kanhuan. If you don't love a woman, no matter how nice she is to you, you won't love her. Love isn't pity or making do. If a woman you don't love died for you, then if you were reborn, would you be willing to love her for the rest of your life? Ah. Yi Kanhuan wore a conflicted expression hearing her question. Damn, this question is so difficult. Love or not love? If he loved her, it would be a little unfair to himself. If he didn't love her, it would be too cruel to her. Wait, there seems to be something wrong. Fuck. Yi Kanhuan slapped his legs. No one even loves me when I'm naked. Why the hell am I even thinking about this? The premise of this matter is that there must be a girl who loves me. Su Wan, Yi Kanhuan, that's enough. Seeing Su Wan's expression, Yi Kanhuan put his hand on Su Wan's shoulder. Before he could say anything, he felt a wave of coldness seeping into his heart. Damn. Yi Kanhuan immediately let go of Su Wan's shoulder as if he was electrocuted. Then he pretended to look around leisurely. As expected, he saw Su Rui in a black Audi at the corner of the street. Master Gao was a boss driving an Audi while he was still a bitter primary school teacher. He had to deal with a group of brats every day. Yi Kanhuan's heart was raining right now. Take Qingmei back. Su Wan also saw Su Rui's car. She ordered Yi Kanhuan and then quickly walked towards Su Rui's car. Yi Kanhuan was speechless. We're opponents. Is it okay for you guys to treat me like a nanny? Although Yi Kanhuan cursed countless times in his heart, he could only sigh as he looked at the female lead who was still wandering around in a daze. Su Rui stubbornly followed his wife and didn't even care about the mission. His wife was the most important. As for him, the world was big, but the mission was the most important. After Su Wan got in the car, Su Rui immediately started the car. How is it? Did Su Qingmei confess? Su Rui asked. Today was a really important day. Although it couldn't immediately determine the success or failure of the mission, Su Qingmei's performance today was closely related to the future plan. No. Su Wan leaned against the seat and smiled. If she confessed, she'd have at least a 50% chance of getting Xia Chang'an. But after working hard all these years, she hesitated in the end. Maybe she hesitated a long time ago. Su Rui chuckled while driving. Back then, you purposely found people to spread rumors about her and then told me to use my connections to transfer her to a private school. You already thought of this, right? Su Qingmei is Lu Li's daughter. Both mother and daughter are unreliable women. Lu Li's looks are average, so even if she's restless, she doesn't have the qualifications. But Su Qingmei was born beautiful. Even if she was reborn, she still doesn't have any ambitions. Her mind is filled with love. A woman like her will get restless when she meets someone with good qualifications. With a bunch of young, handsome, and rich classmates, she naturally won't be as enthusiastic when she looks at Xia Chang'an. Su Wan closed her eyes and nodded. It was hard to change a person's nature. Since Su Qingmei could give up on Xia Chang'an for Gao Yu in the past life, then she could give up on Xia Chang'an for Zhao Yu and Wang Yu in this life. Forgetting the pain after the scar healed. This was a common problem for most people. A year later, Yi Kanhuan was eating with Xia Chang'an when the mission failed notification popped up in his head. At that time, he was completely stunned. Yi Kanhuan always thought that Xia Chang'an was the most unstable factor in this world. In order to stop Xia Chang'an from dating in university, Yi Kanhuan even quit his job and went to the city where Xia Chang'an was studying. He opened a company here and enjoyed life while urging Xia Chang'an to focus on his studies and not to date. Originally, Yi Kanhuan had planned to wait until Su Qingmei turned 16 and then he would think of a way to get her and Xia Chang'an on the same bed. Then he would succeed immediately. But he didn't expect the mission to fail before he could even execute his plan. This didn't make sense, okay? What happened to the supposed reborn female lead pestering her childhood sweetheart male lead? What happened to the touching story of the reborn female lead looking for her true love? Uncle, what's wrong? Xia Chang'an couldn't help but call him, seeing Yi Kanhuan holding his chopsticks in a daze. Yi Kanhuan looked at Xia Chang'an gloomily. Chang'an, tell me the truth. What do you think of Su Qingmei? Childhood friend. She's pretty good. Xia Chang'an replied while nodding. In his past life, Su Qingmei was stubborn and immature, but she seemed to have changed a lot in this life. At least, she was more mature than he remembered. Then do you like her? Like? For some reason, Xia Chang'an suddenly thought of the girl who courageously confessed to him in his past life. At that moment, he liked her, right? But that was in his past life, wasn't it? Seeing that Xia Chang'an didn't say anything, Yi Kanhuan sighed to himself. He failed the mission, so why was he still conflicted? So what if Xia Chang'an liked Su Qingmei? Su Qingmei actually fell in love with someone else in this life. As expected, reborn women were unreliable. Right now, Sea City. Su Qingmei and a handsome young man walked hand in hand on the street. It was like a scene from countless romance novels. The young woman and young man strolled hand in hand on the quiet street. Behind them was a low-key luxury car. Right now, Su Qingmei felt sweet inside. The young man was the son of a high-ranking official in Sea City. He chased after her for a year. No matter how cold she was, he didn't give up. Gradually, Su Qingmei was moved by his ferocious attacks. Right now, Su Wan and Su Rui had announced their relationship in front of the Su family. Although Su Guoyang was a bit against it in the beginning, under Su Rui's assurance and after seeing Su Wan's outstanding grades, Su Guoyang still tacitly agreed to their relationship. Lu Li's thoughts were different from Su Guoyang's. She saw that Su Rui opened a company and drove a car. She liked him a lot. Who in the neighborhood didn't know that she had a future son-in-law who was a boss? In comparison, Lu Li increasingly felt that Su Wan was more promising than her biological daughter, Su Qingmei. Young Master Yan had chased after her multiple times, gifting her cosmetics and high-grade tonics. Her daughter didn't know what was good for her and didn't even want to be friends with him. Although she was young and started dating early, she couldn't miss out on a good man. As long as she had a bottom line, Lu Li approved of her daughter dating those young masters. Therefore, under the other party's offensive and Lu Li's instigation, Su Qingmei finally decided to date Yan Ming. The two were attached to each other when they first got together. Because Yan Ming's father's position was higher than Gao Jian's, Su Qingmei felt that she could finally hold her head high in front of Su Wan. Unfortunately, good times didn't last long. After the two had been together for half a year, the hot-blooded Yan Ming didn't plan on continuing to be a monk. He wanted to be intimate with Su Qingmei. Su Qingmei, who had been hurt in her past life, naturally resisted this kind of thing. In the end, the two parted on bad terms. Not long after, Yan Ming found a new girlfriend. Plus, he told everyone in school that he had slept with Su Qingmei and that he didn't want her. Su Qingmei was furious when she found out that she was broken up. Then, she heard Yan Ming slandering her. Su Qingmei went crazy. She rushed to Yan Ming's class to reason with him, but Yan Ming had a lot of power in the school. Su Qingmei wasn't his match by herself at all. Just when she thought that she was going to drop out of school under everyone's disdain, Yan Ming suddenly dropped out of school because of his injuries. Not only that, he even went to the Su family to apologize to Su Qingmei with his injuries. Plus, everyone's opinion on Yan Ming and Su Qingmei's matter had changed in an instant. Up until Yan Ming's family left Sea City did Su Qingmei find out that the person who settled this matter for her was Gao Yu, the person she had been avoiding. Why did you help me? Su Qingmei found Su Rui with complicated feelings after finding out the truth. I didn't help you. I just don't like scum. Su Rui looked at Su Qingmei calmly. Of course. You're Su Wan's sister and in the future, you'll be my sister too. You can think of it as me helping you. Su Wan. Was it because of her sister again? Su Qingmei suddenly recalled the scene of her lying on the hospital bed in her past life. Why did you help me? She had asked Xia Chang'an this too. How did Xia Chang'an answer then? You're Xiao Wan's sister, so you're my sister. Of course I have to help you. Xia Chang'an had said it clearly that he was doing it for her sister. But she, on the other hand, had thought that he had helped her because he still had feelings for her. How funny was that? At this moment, Su Qingmei finally recognized the reality. No matter if it was her past life or this life, she was a failure. God gave her a second chance. She was already the lucky one among millions of people, but she still repeated the same mistakes. Was it because he had always met bad people, or was it because he had eyes but failed to see? Su Qingmei still had a long life ahead of her. What should she do in the future? Su Wan and Su Rui didn't know and didn't want to care. They finished their mission and started to leave this world. Chapter 371. When Su Wan exited the mission world, it was already night in the lost time-space. As soon as she left the connection room, the communicator on Su-won's wrist immediately rang. All the communications were from Yi Axian. Su-won walked out of the connection room and directly connected the communicator. Yi Axian's slightly tired figure immediately appeared on the floating screen of the communicator. Su-won, are you okay? Su-won looked at Yi Axian somewhat inexplicably. Your last mission had a space overlay. Yi Axian saw Su-won's expression and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It seems like there's nothing on your side. Ding Jiejia's mission space also had a space overlay. She's still trapped there. Su-won, I'm busy right now. Can you go and save her? I've already applied to the headquarters for permission to enter the mission space a second time. According to the rules of the Lost Time Space headquarters, each department in each mission space only had one chance to enter. Of course, sometimes special things could be applied for special treatment. Just like Su last time, a department could also have 2 mission enforcers enter at the same time. Save her. Su-won heard Yi Axian's anxious tone and her expression immediately changed. Did Ding Jiejia's world have that kind of existence? That's right. Yi Axian sighed. It's the law enforcer. Space-time law enforcer. They were responsible for erasing all the destroyers in the space under their jurisdiction. Whether you transmigrated, reborn, or counterattacked with the system, all the destroyers of order were targets to be erased by the space-time law enforcer. Therefore, the plane destroyer was naturally regarded as one of the targets to be hunted. Of course, in the long river of time and space, there were thousands of planes. The probability of mission enforcers encountering the space-time law enforcer was very low. Some mission enforcers would never encounter space-time overlay in their entire lives, let alone the legendary law enforcer. Ding Jiejia was unlucky. Su-won sighed. Okay, I know the trial is about to start. I'll save her before the trial starts. Okay, I'll immediately send you the information of that time-space mission. Yi Axian immediately relaxed when she heard Su-won's answer. Actually, she was already at the headquarters and the trial was about to start. This might be Su-won and Ding Jiejia's last mission before the trial. Yi Axian believed that Su-won definitely had a way to bring Ding Jiejia back. The two people cut off the communication and Su-won immediately received the mission information from Yi Axian. Seeing the information in the mission world, Su-won felt that her whole person was not good. Damn Ding Jiejia, couldn't she have chosen a more normal world? Sure enough, if you don't court death, you won't die. Damn, Su-won suddenly felt a bit regretful. She shouldn't have promised Yi Axian to save her and let her be trapped in that world for a lifetime. Mission world. Darkness. Endless darkness. Apart from darkness, there was only a faint blood-red color in the sky. The blood-red moon hung high in the sky, emitting a demonic red glow. This was an endless abyss. Here, it was a paradise of sin. When Su-won opened her eyes again, she found herself lying on a large bed in a palace. The palace was filled with all kinds of blood-colored runes and dark purple curtains hung in every corner of the palace. She hesitated for a moment and slowly sat up from the big bed. Looking down at the black leather clothes on her body, Su-won frowned. She raised her hand and touched the top of her head. Sure enough, she felt 2 small horns. Your Highness, you're awake. At this time, a young girl wearing a black dress hurriedly walked in. She had an astonishing appearance, purple eyes, and a huge blue crystal necklace hanging on the young girl's chest. As she walked, the blue crystal on her chest was constantly emitting a soft light. Azure crystal. Su-won narrowed her eyes. When the young girl walked in front of her, she suddenly raised her hand and forcefully pulled off the crystal necklace on the young girl's neck. Ah! The young girl cried out in surprise. Seeing Su-won take away the necklace, the young girl's expression turned a bit ugly. Your Highness, this is Father. No, this is bestowed by the Lord. The young girl wanted to say something, but before she finished speaking, her tears flowed first. Sparkling and translucent tears streaked across her fair and delicate face. It was really pitiful. Su-won sneered and slowly got up from the big bed. She played with the azure crystal in her hand and walked step by step to a corner of the main hall. There was a magic mirror floating there. The bright mirror reflected Su-won's current appearance. She was a demon from the abyss. She was petite and had black hair and black eyes. In the endless abyss, this was the lowest race. Low-class slaves. Right. She wasn't the high and mighty lord's daughter right now. She was a demon slave. Your Highness Su. At this time, a demon maid's voice rang from outside the main hall. Your Highness Su, Mr. Asino is here. He's waiting for you in the outer hall. Oh. When the young girl in the hall heard the maid's words, she immediately wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and hurriedly turned to leave. When she walked to the door, she seemed to have thought of something. She turned her head and looked at Su-won. Your Highness, don't worry. I will quickly find a way to change back my body. Ha! Seeing the figure of the young girl leaving with quick steps, Su-won turned around and put that piece of azure crystal on her neck, and then coldly sneered, that's right. The two of them switched bodies. The young girl called Her Highness Su was actually a demon from the abyss. Her name was Lika. Lika was a succubus that Her Highness Su bought to do magic experiments. At the time, Her Highness Su was researching an ancient forbidden soul spell. Because there was a deviation in the experiment, Her Highness Su's soul and Lika's soul were switched. Their souls entered each other's bodies. Therefore, Lika became the high and mighty Her Highness while Her Highness Su became a low-class succubus who couldn't speak. It had already been a month since the two of them had exchanged identities. Because Su was usually an experimental maniac, she rarely interacted with others, so no one in the entire palace knew that their highness had already changed her core. With regards to her new identity, Her Highness Su was very calm. She continued to hide in her laboratory in the palace hall and continued to study magic. Meanwhile, Lika used her identity to receive her father's love while also having an ambiguous relationship with her fiancé, Asino. At the same time, she always said innocently that she would definitely think of a way to help Her Highness switch bodies. Switch my ass. According to what Su-won knew, this fake highness was a true charming woman. She didn't return the body to the original owner until the end. She used Her Highness Su's body to successfully marry Asino, the future Devil King. From then on, she lived a superior life. Chapter 372. After Lika left, Su-won turned and entered Her Highness Su's laboratory. The laboratory was in the dark room of the palace. There were magic lamps hanging in the room and all sorts of experimental equipment were placed in the laboratory. Su-won followed the original body's memory and found some useful things in the pile of experimental materials. Then she immediately threw herself into a new experiment. Not long later, Su-won created a bottle of dark blue magic medicine. Su-won smiled faintly looking at her work. She tilted her head back and drank all of the medicine. Blue light flickered in her eyes. In reality, the demon race was the same as the demonic women. They were a race with a low population and poor reproductive abilities. Plus, they were born with innate talents that no one could compare to. The demonic women could use their bodies as weapons to confuse anyone. As for the demon race, their weapons were their voices. The demon race's voices were naturally charming and could make people hallucinate. If used well, the destructive power of their voices was really strong. Therefore, all the succubi that appeared in the market were sealed. After they were captured, there would be specialized demon mages using sealing techniques to seal their innate skills. Therefore, all the succubi slaves could not speak. But this little trick wasn't worth mentioning to Her Highness Sue. She could create a medicine to remove the seal at any time and restore her voice. But in the original plot, Her Highness Sue didn't care about this small matter. She had been immersed in her magic and alchemy world. Until one day, she came out of the laboratory and discovered that Licca was using her body to have sex with a Sino in her palace. This made Her Highness Sue furious. The dignity of the demon race's nobility couldn't be trampled on. Her Highness Sue wanted to punish Licca, but a Sino stopped her. Seeing that her identity was about to be exposed, Licca immediately cried and begged for Her Highness Sue's forgiveness. Then, she pitifully told Asino that she wasn't the real Her Highness and that she couldn't help but fall in love with Asino recently. That was why she did this. After knowing the truth, Asino didn't hurt Licca. Instead, he imprisoned Her Highness Sue in the secret room and used magic to seal the exit of the secret room. It turned out that Asino already had the ambition to take over Stankoto's territory. He had purposely befriended Her Highness Sue to gain Lord Stankoto's trust and slowly take over his territory. Now that Licca's identity was exposed, Asino immediately had a new plan. He imprisoned the real Her Highness Sue and then worked with Licca. Finally, he successfully commanded his demon army to invade Beak City and became the new overlord here. At that time, the flames of war were everywhere, and the entire Lord's mansion was filled with mournful wails. When the real Her Highness Sue broke the seal and came out, everything was too late. She originally had the chance to escape alone, but to save her father, Her Highness Sue didn't leave in the end. Instead, she chose to live and die with Beak City. This was her last pride as a noble demon. After Her Highness Sue and the old overlord died, Licca even pretended to erect tombstones for them. Every once in a while, she would repent in front of the tombstones. She started to do good things in Beak City and adopted many succubi and seductresses who were sold. Not long after, she became a famous, good person, in the endless abyss. In this world filled with evil, all good would be infinitely magnified. Those low-level demons who struggled bitterly at the bottom of the abyss all saw this overlord's wife as their spiritual leader. Unfortunately, until the end, no one knew just how many people this overlord's wife had harmed for her own personal gain. What was good? What was evil? In the original world, those at the bottom treated Licca as a god. But in their hearts, the old overlord Stankoto was the synonym for cruelty and bloodshed. Actually, how could there be good people in the demon race? Even those at the bottom of the demon race would still wield the butcher's knife against their companions and relatives in order to survive. Nobles killing people was cruel and heartless, but they were killing each other because they had no choice but to survive. Knock knock. There was a soft knock on the door of the laboratory. Sue Wan's gaze flickered. She quickly walked to the door and raised her hand to cast a mirror technique. A handsome blue-haired demon warrior stood outside the door. He wore a dark red bloody armor and his familiar face carried a bit of eagerness. As if sensing Sue Wan's gaze, the blue-haired man faintly smiled at Sue Wan, his dark red pupils filled with a gentle expression. "You're here." Sue Wan sighed in relief and said softly while opening the door. "Ah." Sue Wan froze hearing Sue Wan's charming voice. Then he furrowed his brows. "You undid the seal." "Amen," Sue Wan responded. She suddenly remembered that succubi had a special voice. It seemed like she should pretend to be mute in the future. "Try not to talk in the future," Sue Wan reminded Sue Wan. Then he pulled her hand and walked outside. Asino and the female lead are having a good time. I'm guessing that they'll be playing a big movie when they come back. Wife, I'll take you to my side first. At this moment, the plot had developed to the point where Asino and Lika were having sex. When the two of them were entangled, Her Highness Su happened to see them. Su-won knew that if he didn't do anything, Asino might seal and imprison Su-won again. Therefore, he had to take Su-won away before the male and female lead returned. Ignore them. Take me out of Beak City. Su-won's gaze flickered. I'm not here for a mission. I'm here to find Ding Jijia. Ding Jijia. Su-won heard this name and all the information he knew about Ding Jijia flashed through his mind. He closed his eyes and sensed. Indeed, he didn't sense Ding Jijia's soul within his range of perception. Where is she? The female lead and male lead were both in Beak City. Then why would the mission enforcer Ding Jijia appear somewhere else? Was there such an unreliable mission enforcer? Ah. Su-won hesitated hearing Su-won's question. Maybe she's in the Soul Purgatory. Soul Purgatory, the forbidden purgatory in the deep abyss. It was a dangerous place that even the demon race didn't dare to enter. The endless abyss was also called Infernal Hell. There weren't 18 levels here, but it was divided into the upper, middle, and deep abyss. Each level had its own rules of survival. Beak City was a small territory in the middle abyss. To go to the deep abyss from Beak City, one had to use a fixed teleportation point in the middle abyss. This was a really long teleportation and the teleportation fee was ridiculously high. Okay. I'll take you back to pack up first and then we'll leave together. Okay. Hearing Su-rue's words, Su-won nodded. She took off the azure crystal on her neck. I want to take this away. Put it in your space ring first. Right now, Su-won's identity in the Overlord's residence was low-level slave Lika. Naturally, she couldn't wear this necklace out. Plus, Sakito spent a lot of money to buy this mysterious necklace for his daughter. There was no way Su-won would leave it for Lika. Su-won put the azure crystal away and the two left Her Highness Su's palace. Not too far away, they happened to run into the Overlord residence's steward. Seeing the two, the steward smiled at Su-won. Lonpa, where are you going? Lonpa was Su-won's name in this world. His identity was Her Highness Su's guardian magic warrior. Of course, he was supposed to be loyal to the real Her Highness Su. Unfortunately, Lonpa had been kept in the dark and had been loyal to Lika, who pretended to be Her Highness Su. Chapter 373. The manager of Beak City's Overlord's residence was an old demon. Everyone was used to calling him Old Berg. Hearing Old Berg greeting him, Su-rue immediately nodded. Her Highness Su told me to go out and do something. Oh, go on, go on. Come back early. Old Berg didn't doubt Su-rue's words at all. Seeing him turn and leave, Su-rue immediately brought Su-won into the courtyard he lived in. After packing up all of his belongings, Su-rue brought Su-won out from the back door of the Lord's residence. Because Su-rue had Her Highness Su's pass, the two were able to leave Beak City without any obstructions. After leaving Beak City, Su-rue finally had the chance to ask Su-won about Ding Jijia. Yi Axean sent me a piece of information. It turns out that this world is the same as our last mission world. There is a spatial overlap. It's just that our mission was two identical parallel universes overlapping, but this mission world is two intersecting universes overlapping. Just like what we know, Demon King Asino was the male lead in this time-space and the fake Royal Highness Lika was the female lead. All of the rules and luck in this world revolved around the two main leads. But when another time-space overlapped with this one, the main lead from the other time-space descended into the endless abyss. Now, there's another main lead in this world. That main lead that appeared out of nowhere is an extremely violent and violent homicidal maniac. Because of his abnormal massacre, he attracted the attention of the space-time executioner. Right now, the main lead is being chased by the executioner. As for Ding Jijia, I understand. Su Rui instantly understood. That main lead must be a handsome guy. Therefore, Ding Jijia couldn't change her nature and ran away with the handsome guy. But this handsome guy was the executioner's target. One could imagine Ding Jijia's current situation. She must be in a terrible situation. Damn. In short, it's all because of her lust. Su Wan shrugged helplessly. That's it. According to the SOS that Ding Jijia sent to the headquarters, she was last seen in the deep abyss Soul Death Purgatory. Soul Death Purgatory. Su Rui was dazed for a moment. Then he looked at Su Wan speechlessly. Wife, can you use your mental power to communicate with me? Damn. Su Wan's voice was too magical. Ah. Su Wan couldn't help but smile. Then she used her soul power to communicate with Su Rui. Although Su Wan and Likat swapped bodies, Her Highness Su had originally majored in alchemy and soul magic. Therefore, her mental power and soul power weren't affected at all. On the contrary, because demons were born with bodies that were different from normal people, Su Wan's mental power was even stronger than her original strength. When Lika discovered that the real Her Highness Su and Lan Pa were missing, it was already the next day. That's right, she had been rolling in the sheets with the male lead yesterday. Rolling here and there, and before she knew it, it was already the next day. After discovering this, Lika was terrified. Did Lan Pa already know her identity? Although Lika hadn't lived in Her Majesty Su's palace for long, she knew Lan Pa too well. He was definitely Her Majesty's loyal dog. Even if the sky fell, he wouldn't leave Her Majesty Su. And now, Lan Pa had disappeared, and with him, Her Highness Su, who had turned into Rebecca, had also disappeared. Your Highness, should we send people to capture Lika? The maid on the side couldn't help but suggest. No. Lika quickly denied the maid's words. If she brought Lan Pa and Her Highness back, wouldn't her identity be exposed? She would definitely die. She would definitely die. Lika didn't want to die. Plus, thinking of Asino's gentleness and love, Lika felt like her heart was about to melt. Her Highness Su only knew how to study magic and her brain was filled with alchemy. She didn't know what love was at all. She also didn't know how to cherish a good man like Asino. Since she left, then let her be. Right, the endless abyss was vast and boundless. Perhaps Her Highness Su had wanted to go out and take a look a long time ago but just didn't have the chance. Since she left with Lan Pa, she probably wouldn't be able to come back for 3 to 5 years. Even if she came back in the future, maybe she and Asino would have gotten married and left Beak City already. Thinking of this, Lika's emotions gradually calmed down. Don't tell anyone about Lika's disappearance. Also, I sent Lan Pa out to do something. He'll be gone for a long time. Go ask Old Berg to help me choose a magic warrior guardian. While Lan Pa isn't here, let someone else take his position. The maid heard Lika's order and immediately nodded respectfully, yes, Your Highness. Just like that, a low-level slave girl's disappearance and a magic warrior's departure didn't attract much attention from the Overlord's residence. Right now, they had changed their clothes and arrived at the teleportation point of the middle layer abyss. Many people gathered here, wanting to go to the deep layer abyss to earn money. That's right. The deep layer abyss represented slaughter and danger. Similarly, it also represented endless opportunities and wealth. If the middle layer abyss was a world where nobles enslaved people, then the deep layer abyss was a cruel and bloody world where people ate people and demons killed demons. Many people queued up to go to the deep layer abyss every day. Most of them couldn't stay in the middle layer abyss anymore and wanted to go to the deep layer abyss to find opportunities. There were a few hundred of them leaving every day. In the end, only a few could return alive. Of course, in addition to the demons at the bottom of the hierarchy, there were also some aristocratic children who would bring a large group of followers and a large number of protective scrolls in order to seek excitement in the deep abyss. These people were all bored to the point of having fun. At this time, other than Su Rui who was wearing luxurious armor, there was also a young man wearing a silver robe. That man had a feminine and seductive face and a large group of followers followed behind him. Right now, he was looking around in boredom. Not long after, he discovered General Su who stood out from the crowd and had an outstanding temperament. The man's gaze brightened. Then he quickly walked to Su Rui. "Brother, how should I address you?" The androgynous voice made General Su inexplicably have goosebumps all over his body. Seeing that Su Rui ignored his question coldly, the man wearing the robe smiled and continued, "I'm Belia from Waya City. You look like you're going to the deep layer abyss for sightseeing, right? Why did you only bring an abyss enchantress?" What did he mean by only one? Su Rui's eyes flickered coldly hearing Belia's words. Su Wan also looked at him with an unfriendly expression. Feeling the familiar spiritual fluctuation from Belia, Su Wan smiled inside. No wonder he was so ostentatious. He was a hell mage. In the deep layer abyss, other than the talents of different races, most people were either warriors or mages. Mages were split into necromancers, hell mages, and demon mages. Chapter 374. Hell demons weren't the same race as normal demons. How should she put it? Normal demons would transform into demons when they were in mortal danger. They would have a cold and powerful appearance, as well as strong defense and destructive power. Hell demons, on the other hand, would transform into demons when they were in danger. Ordinary infernal demons could transform into infernal hounds. Powerful infernal demons could even transform into 2 or even 3 infernal hounds. In short, this was an extremely powerful and troublesome race. Hell magicians were the best of the best. Su Wan didn't expect Belia, this sissy, to be an advanced hell magician. You really can't judge a book by its cover. While Su Wan was examining Belia, Belia also lifted his brows and looked curiously at Su Wan. This succubus wasn't ordinary. Belia originally thought that Su Rui's temperament was outstanding and he didn't seem like a normal demon. But looking at the succubus next to him, Belia wanted to make friends with him. "Brother, we'll probably have to wait until the sky turns dark if we line up here. Actually, I have my family's token that can activate the family's passage. I can teleport 50 people at once. Look, I only have 20 followers. I originally didn't want to use my family's authority, but it's fate that we met. Are you willing to travel with me?" Saying this, Belia took out a token from his magic robe. Seeing the word "feet" on the token, Su Wan and Su Rui's pupils shrank. Feet family, the strongest hell demon clan in the middle level abyss. Damn! What kind of world was this? She just left the male and female lead and now she encountered the villain boss's family member. But Belia's name was really unfamiliar. Su Wan searched through the plots she knew but didn't find this name. There wasn't even anything that resembled this name. It seemed like Belia was either a family's cannon fodder or he never came out of the deep level abyss. While Su Wan was in deep thought, Su Rui also muttered to himself. Then he lifted his head and looked deeply at Belia. "I'm Lon Pa. She's my maid, Su." Oh. Belia beamed seeing that Su Rui was finally willing to reveal his name. "Brother Lon Pa, this way please. This is the best time for us to enter the portal. When we reach the deep abyss, I'll take you to the stronghold of the Feet family." There are the most tempting abyssal sirens in the entire deep abyss, as well as the best wine and meat. Su Rui was speechless hearing Belia's words. General Su wasn't interested in the abyssal sirens at all, okay? It was better to keep a respectful distance from those seductresses who used their bodies as weapons. When Belia returned to his seat, the attendant he brought with him looked at Su Rui and Su Wan vigilantly. Then he moved closer to Belia and whispered a few words. Although he was careful and quiet, Su Rui and Su Wan could still hear him clearly with their current mental powers. Young Master Bell, these two look very dangerous. Won't it affect our plan if you bring them along? Belia didn't say anything. Instead, he smiled and said, "What are you worried about? I have the final say on this matter." Saying this, Belia smiled charmingly at them. "I'm sorry. I didn't teach them well and let Brother Lanpa see a joke." Su Rui was speechless. Su Wan, did this sissy take a liking to my General Su? Damn, I'm pissed. Su Rui was expressionless at Belia's display of goodwill. Thankfully, Belia was thick-skinned so he didn't feel awkward. He continued to smile and say, "Let's go. I'll take the token and have them open the Feet family's special portal." Okay. Su Rui nodded. He pulled Su Wan's hand and the two followed behind Belia. The group entered the teleportation formation smoothly. Plus, they didn't even need to pay the teleportation fee. When the surroundings of the transmission array lit up with brilliant light, Su Wan only felt that her eyes were blurred and the surrounding air seemed to be distorted. Fortunately, Su Rui had been holding her hand. When a burst of space-time turbulence rushed over, Su Rui subconsciously held Su Wan in his arms. "Something's wrong," someone in the group shouted. Suddenly, a cold glint flashed and countless ice blades flew in all directions. There was an assassin. Plus, he was in the group. The assassin's mental power wasn't high. He was just an ordinary ice-attributed mage. But since he attacked in this unstable portal, although it was just an ordinary ice blade, it was still fatal. So unlucky. Su Rui was speechless, feeling like he was caught in the crossfire. No wonder Belia wasn't in the plot that he and Su Wan knew of. He really was cannon fodder. The portal was halfway through. Su Rui could feel that they had arrived at the deep layer of the abyss. He couldn't help but hug Su Wan and whisper in her ears, "I can use my spiritual power to break the space-time whirlpool, but I can't guarantee that we can land safely." "It's okay." Su Wan used her spiritual power to communicate with Su Rui in her mind. "When I was refining, I left behind several teleportation magic scrolls. After we get out, I'll immediately use my spiritual power to activate the scrolls. We can continuously move until we find a safe place to stay." Okay. Getting Su Wan's answer, Su Rui immediately relaxed. He gathered the internal energy and spiritual power in his body on the warrior sword in his hand and then suddenly waved it. The entire transmission array immediately shook violently and a small gap was broken open. Facing the whistling airflow, Su Rui held Su Wan and jumped down without hesitation. At that critical moment, a black shadow suddenly sprang onto Su Wan's body. Su Wan didn't have time to think. She concentrated her mental power and activated the teleportation scroll in midair. The first time she moved, there were man-eating monsters all around her. Su Wan didn't dare to stop and immediately activated the second time. In the end, she fell into a pile of skeletons. Damn! Third time, fourth time. After using 5 scrolls, Su Wan and Su Rui finally landed safely in a seemingly calm mountain forest. Amen. To be precise, it wasn't just the two of them. "It's dirty. Get down." Su Wan looked at a certain hell dog lying on her body and communicated with it with her mental power in dissatisfaction. "Ah. Belia, who had turned into two hellhounds, immediately jumped down from Su Wan's back. Why are you so fierce? You scared me. Fuck, shut up. I'm not going to shut up. I'm just scared. Do you think I won't kill you? Damn sissy. Su Wan and Su Rui were speechless seeing Belia's two heads tearing at each other. Chapter 375. The sky was still gray and the forest was silent. Belia had returned to his human form. He finally calmed down and stood silently behind Su Wan and Su Rui. His eyes were closed as if he was sensing something. A gentle breeze blew through the forest, and the air carried a faint, almost undetectable smell of decay. This is... Su Rui and Su Wan looked at each other and both of them were secretly on guard. Shit! At this time, Belia also opened his eyes in a panic. He felt that aura. Hurry! We've entered the deep layer abyss dead spirit forest. Hearing Belia's words, Su Wan immediately took out the last teleportation scroll. But before she could chant the incantation, the scroll in her hand suddenly started burning. The white flame exuded a strange and cold aura. Let's go! Su Rui rushed to the front. The moment the three people moved, the originally flat grassland suddenly shook violently. From the black soil with weeds, pale arms stretched out. The bony palms had sharp nails. Looking around, the entire forest was filled with ghost claws. They swayed and slowly broke out of the soil. This was definitely more shocking than the zombies at the end of the world. Rotten and smelly corpses gradually crawled out of the soil. They swayed and instantly surrounded Su Rui and the other two. Damn, so disgusting. Belia's expression changed. As he spoke, he took out his magic staff from his spatial ring. Hell's Lotus. Red snakes of fire danced out. Under the flames that filled the sky, the swaying corpses began to wail incessantly. The ear-piercing screams pierced through the sky of the mountain ridge and spread far away. Those sounds, Su Wan sharply felt that the screams weren't normal wailing. They seemed to be sending a message far away. Were they asking for help? Su Wan immediately took out a few magic talismans from her bosom and scattered them in front of her. Those magic talismans immediately turned into specks of starlight and sank into the ground. Immediately, a transparent magic barrier formed above the entire area, isolating everything from the outside world. Magic protection. Belia looked at Su Wan strangely. You're an alchemist. Belia had his suspicions ever since Su Wan took out the teleportation talismans like she didn't care about money. Now that she was so proficient in using magic talismans, he couldn't help but ask in astonishment. Su Wan didn't answer Belia's question. Instead, she lifted her chin and signaled Belia to pay attention to his back. Behind me, huh? Belia turned around and saw a disgusting rotten corpse pouncing at him from behind. Disgusting, disgusting. While Belia was complaining, a sword light flashed. Su Rui had already split the zombie in front of him in half. The dark green liquid splashed out, splashing all over Belia. Belia, aw. Someone's earth-shattering scream came from inside the magic shield. Roar. What responded to him was an even more shocking roar that came from another direction. This is, Infernal Demon King. Through the transparent magic shield, Su Rui stared at the huge figure striding over from afar. With every step he took, the entire mountain ridge shook and countless trees were already broken by his huge feet. Why is there such a thing here? At this moment, Belia was also stunned. He stared blankly at the huge Infernal Demon King. There seemed to be two figures sitting on his shoulders. That's, a man wearing a black robe sat on the Infernal Demon King's shoulders. The black hat covered his face, only revealing his thin and fair chin. In his arms, a beautiful and coquettish abyssal siren was leaning against him. Necromancer, mage. As they got closer, Belia smelled the strong scent of death and decay coming from the man. So all the zombies in the forest of the dead were his subordinates. While Belia's expression was solemn, Su-Rui slowly put away his sword, speechless as he looked at the eye-catching duo. It's Ding Jijia. Su-Rui was using his mental power to communicate with Su-Wan. Su-Wan couldn't help but glance at Ding Jijia. That's right. She remembered Yi Xian saying that Ding Jijia's identity in this world seemed to be a demonic woman. Of course, she wasn't an ordinary demonic woman. She was a mutated demonic woman and possessed extremely powerful attacks. While Su-Wan was looking at Ding Jijia, who was in her man's embrace, was also looking at them. Damn! Isn't that my Adonis? Though Ding Jijia had never seen Su-Rui before, she spent a lot of points on the market to purchase a lot of his information. Naturally, his appearance was included. Since Adonis was here, then the demonic woman next to him must be Su-Wan, right? Thinking until here, Ding Jijia immediately whispered a few words into her man's ear. Then, the surrounding zombies all quieted down and obediently returned to the ground to continue their long slumber. Even the infernal demon king that was the most arrogant just now was as quiet as a baby. Su-Wan waved her hand and removed the magic protection. Then she walked forward and stared at Ding Jijia's eyes, communicating with her using her mental power. Ding Jijia, I'm Su-Wan. I'm Su now. What's the situation here? Su. Ding Jijia's gaze flickered. No wonder Su-Wan had the appearance of a demonic woman. So she was that bitter Her Highness Su. Su, is that you? At this time, Ding Jijia suddenly jumped down from the infernal demon king's shoulder and walked to Su-Wan. She lifted her hands and hugged Su-Wan's petite body. I'm Xueli. Long time no see. Xueli, the future queen of banshees. Seeing that Ding Jijia activated her movie Empress mode as soon as they met, Su-Wan could only give her a smile of reunion after a long time of ecstasy. After hugging Su-Wan, Ding Jijia smiled and walked to Su-Rui. You must be Lon Pa, right? Thank you for taking care of Su for me. Saying this, Ding Jijia opened her arms to hug Su-Rui, but General Su dodged her. You're welcome. It's my responsibility to take care of her. Su-Rui still looked at Ding Jijia with a normal expression and his tone was lukewarm. Aha! Adonis really has a personality. Chapter 376. Hearing Ding Jijia's question, Belia seemed to have forgotten that he was in a sorry state. He lifted his eyes charmingly and answered arrogantly, I'm Belia, the third successor of Feet family's 10th generation. Feet family successor. Ah. Wasn't he the villain family that was used as cannon fodder? Ding Jijia looked at Belia, her gaze flickering. She didn't remember such a person in Feet family. Could it be? Ding Jijia's gaze flickered. She smiled and nodded at Belia. Hello. I'm Xueli. Saying this, she turned and waved behind her. Darling, hurry and come down. Hearing Ding Jijia's words, the man sitting on the infernal demon king's shoulder fluttered and jumped down. At this moment, a light breeze blew away the black hat on the man's head, revealing a head full of jet black hair and eyes. The flawlessly handsome man looked at Ding Jijia with a gaze filled with gentleness. Wow! Ding Jijia had good taste. Su-Wan couldn't help but touch her chin as she looked at that exquisitely carved and unparalleled handsome face. Ahem. Su-Rui immediately coughed and then Su-Rui's voice rang in Su-Wan's mind. Wife, did I look good? Do I look good or him? Su-Wan was speechless. Of course, you look good. Su Wan couldn't help but reply. Actually, she wanted to say that the two couldn't be compared at all. No matter how good-looking other men were, they couldn't compare to her General Su. Of course, she wouldn't tell Su Rui this. Otherwise, a certain someone would be cocky. Su. At this time, Ding Jie pulled Su Wan's hand with a smile and pulled her in front of the man in the black robe. This is Frank. He's a sage-level necromancer. Sage-level. Su Wan nodded at Frank, hearing Ding Jie's words. People with the protagonist's halo were amazing. He was actually a sage-level necromancer. Nanny. He could kill a bunch of people instantly, okay? Even the original male lead of this world, Asino, would be killed instantly in front of him. However, the powerful male lead was being chased by a space-time executioner. She didn't dare to imagine just how strong the executioner was. Alright, we shouldn't stay here for long. After Ding Jie introduced them, Franks muttered and whistled. The infernal demon king immediately lowered its huge and ugly body. Come on up, I'll bring you to our stronghold. Saying this, Frank carried Ding Jie and jumped up. Su Rui wasn't slow either. He held Su Wan's waist with one hand and the two sat together. Belia stood on the spot with a look of disdain. This guy was too ugly. Too ugly. This young master doesn't want to sit. Absolutely not. You're not coming up. At this moment, Ding Jie, who was on the infernal demon king's shoulder, smiled and looked at Belia. Are you really not coming up? Ding Jie whispered something into Frank's ear as she spoke. I don't. Belia, who was on the ground, opened his mouth, but before he could finish speaking, the infernal demon king suddenly lifted his leg and stomped on Belia's body. Damn! Belia immediately dodged and then stared coldly at Ding Jie. Ugly woman, what are you doing? Ugly woman. Ding Jie gritted her teeth, but she wore a faint smile. Sorry, my foot slipped. Slip my ass. Belia widened his eyes and looked at the messy surroundings. Then, he lowered his head and looked at his dirty robe. In the end, he raised his hand and took out a dozen storm talismans from his spatial ring. You guys lead the way, I'll just follow. Ding Jie was speechless. What's with the act? Damn sissy. Humph. Darling, let's go. Ding Jie whispered into Frank's ear. Immediately after, the infernal demon king walked out of the forest with large strides. Along the way, there were white bones everywhere they went. The Dead Soul Forest was the Dead's paradise. If it weren't for the infernal demon king, they would have been surrounded by a large group of dead souls and corpses. The group walked for around an hour before they finally arrived at a gathering place of the demon race. This was a rundown small city. It didn't even have a good city gate. The moment they entered, they could see many members of the Abyss walking back and forth. Blood was everywhere on the streets. Some demons were fighting over prey, while others were fighting over women. There were even a few demons from hell who were openly having sex with several sirens of the Abyss on the street. This was the deep layer of the Abyss. There was no order here. Everything was based on strength. There were no morals or ethics here. There was only endless killing. The infernal demon king was Frank's possession. He was the strongest person in this stronghold. When the people on the street saw the infernal demon king, they all subconsciously made way for him. The people who had just killed couldn't help but put away their weapons and dragged the corpses far away. Seeing the chaotic streets, Su Rui's expression didn't change, but he kept talking to Su Wan. Wife, can you not take on missions like this in the future? It looks disgusting. I don't want to either. Su Wan was depressed too. When Yi Axane spoke, Suwon didn't know that Ding Jijia would enter a mission like this. Plus, abyssal demonesses were said to like NPCs the most. She felt drunk just thinking about it. The group arrived at Ding Jijia and Frank's residence without any obstructions. The courtyard they lived in was pretty nice. Belia went to find a place to shower first while Ding Jijia brought Suwon into her bedroom. Franks waved his hand and set up a magic barrier. Suwon, Su-rui, Franks knows my identity. Ding Jijia called Suwon and Su-rui's names right away. Suwon and Su-rui weren't surprised to hear this. Suwon remained silent while Su-rui looked coldly at Franks. Can you tell me about you? About me? Franks glanced at Su-rui and then said faintly, I'm from Mod Continent. Because I'm a necromancer, I've been chased by the Holy Light Court. Then the Dark Church found me and said that I'm the son of darkness. They gave me cultivation resources and let me cultivate. When I reached a bottleneck, they sent me to a secret realm to train. In the end, when I was breaking through to the sacred rank, I accidentally attracted the space-time turbulence in the secret realm. Then I followed the space-time vortex to hell and met Ding Jijia. After hearing Frank's words, Ding Jijia nodded. I met Frank not long after entering the mission. Then, cough cough, we naturally fell in love with each other. Originally, I wanted to bring him to kill Asino and Lika, that bitch. Who knew that we would meet that annoying space-time executioner on the way? Space-time executioner. You guys fought him head-on. How strong is he? How did you guys escape? Chapter 377. Space-time executioner. Ding Jijia's expression was a bit strange. Frank and I have fought him before. He's really strong. Most importantly, he doesn't have a specific identity. He can transform into anyone in this world and even possess that person's memories. This was the scariest part about the executioner. It was impossible to defend against. Last time, he transformed into me and lured Frank to the soul death purgatory. He originally planned on killing Frank there, but Frank was a necromancer. Not only did he not die in the soul death purgatory, but he also consolidated his cultivation. Later on, the executioner chased after him. Frank had been hiding and then accidentally fell into an underground cave. Then he encountered the infernal demon king. What was a human-shaped cheat? What was a protagonist's halo? Look at Frank. He was definitely the son of the world's laws. Pure blood. He had been chased but never killed. He had been running and leveling up. Su-rui and Suwon glanced at each other. Su-rui couldn't help but ask, Frank, when was the last time you guys saw the executioner? Ah. Frank and Ding Jijia furrowed their brows and thought about it. Probably, before we came here. Ding Jijia spoke before Frank. When I went to the soul death purgatory to find Frank, he had successfully escaped. He even had the infernal demon king with him. At that time, Ding Jijia had sent a distress signal to the headquarters. Therefore, Yi Xan received that Ding Jijia was in the soul death purgatory. That's right. After we left the soul death purgatory, we came here. Maybe it's because there are a lot of demons gathered here, that's why he hasn't appeared. Upon hearing Ding Jijia's words, Franks nodded firmly. Although the space-time executor is very powerful, he seems to be restricted by the laws of this world. He can't use powers that exceed the limits of this world. Moreover, they claim to be the guardians of space-time. They can't destroy the balance of this world, nor can they kill anyone in this world. That's right, the law enforcers also had strict rules. They could transform into anyone to enforce the law, but they couldn't kill any natives of this world. Otherwise, they would be punished. In other words, They could only attack transmigrators, reincarnated people, system hosts, and mission enforcers who were not natural existences, killing or chasing them away. As for the others, they could not kill them. Was this perhaps the weakness of the spacetime executioner? No, how could he just have a weakness? What they needed to do was not to run away, but to defend themselves and fight back. Su-won. Ding Jijia looked deeply at Su-won. How did you and Su-rui get to know Belia? Why can't I find such a person in my plot records? Belia. Hearing Ding Jijia's question, Su-won immediately used her mental power to communicate with Ding Jijia. She told Ding Jijia everything that happened after they met Belia. Ding Jijia's gaze flickered. Do you guys think he's an enforcer? Su-won and Su-rui weren't too surprised to hear Ding Jijia's words. After all, they didn't trust Belia that much. Do you want me to test him? Ding Jijia smiled coquettishly. Su-rui looked up coldly. No need to test him. Just kill him. If he died, he was just cannon fodder that deserved to die. If he couldn't be killed, then his identity as a spacetime executioner would be exposed. No need. Frank suddenly waved his hand and the magic barrier in the room disappeared. That Belia has already escaped. Ran away. Su-rui immediately sensed Belia's aura. Damn. He really disappeared. Su-won was speechless. He didn't run away because he was afraid of being discovered, right? No. Maybe Belia wasn't a spacetime executioner. Su-won couldn't help but calm down and think for a moment. If Belia was a spacetime executioner, he had the chance to sneak attack her and Su-rui during the transmission, but he didn't. Of course, this didn't exclude the possibility that he did it on purpose. Frank was powerful and had heaven-defying luck. It was hard to deal with him. Maybe the executioner thought that a direct confrontation wouldn't benefit him, so he planned on using a more complicated method. Su-rui. Su-won used her mental power to communicate with Su-rui. Do you think Belia is a spacetime executioner? Doesn't seem like it. Su-rui answered Su-won, there's no way an executioner would be exposed so easily. Right. Su-won also felt like things weren't that simple. Ding Jijia. At this time, Su-won suddenly opened her mouth and spoke. Her charming and pleasant voice made the three people in the room swayed. Damn. Su-won, so you can talk. Ding Jijia froze. Then she patted Su-won's shoulder. I thought you couldn't talk. But your voice, it's good that you can't talk. It tickles my heart. I'll sleep with you tonight. Tell me a story and I'll definitely sleep until the sun rises. Su-won was speechless. Ahem. Su-rui's expression darkened as he coughed. Wife, what do you want to say? Ding Jijia, since we found you, let's go back. Su-won continued to look at Ding Jijia's face and tried to soften her voice. Mission enforcers could request to leave the mission early. Then, they would automatically fail the mission. Failing a mission wasn't a big deal. After all, mission enforcers weren't omnipotent. No. Hearing Su-won's words, Ding Jijia immediately refused loudly. If I leave, Frank will be in danger. Su-won, I called you guys over because I want you guys to help him get through this. Of course, if he encounters any danger, I'll bring up the rear and you guys can forcefully leave anytime. After saying this, Ding Jijia's gaze carried a trace of suspicion and kept staring at Su-won's face. In her memory, Su-won wouldn't retreat no matter what she encountered. Why was she acting so strange today? Spacetime executioners could become anyone in this time-space and could even extract anyone's memory. In that case, could the law enforcer be among them? Who could be trusted? Who could be impersonated? At this moment, Ding Jijia suddenly felt a little uncertain. Logically speaking, the law enforcers were very strong. There was no need for them to feign ignorance. However, accidents happened all the time in this world. What if the law enforcers were really among them? While Ding Jijia was feeling suspicious, Su Wan and Su Rui secretly exchanged glances. They also felt like the executioner was by their side. Chapter 378. At night, Su Wan and Su Rui were arranged by Ding Jijia to stay in 2 adjacent rooms in the courtyard. As soon as the sky turned dark, Ding Jijia scurried into Su Wan's room with a smile and started chatting with her. She kept asking Su Wan all sorts of questions in a roundabout manner. Seeing that it was already past midnight, Su Wan yawned and looked at Ding Jijia. Ding Jijia, are you suspecting me? Ah. Ding Jijia smiled brightly. Why would I? We're good comrades. We're going to fight side by side in the future. I can suspect anyone but you. Perfunctory, continue to be perfunctory. Su Wan touched the small horn on her head. Do you believe that I can request to return to the headquarters right now? I don't care if you die or not. Sob sob sob, Su Wan, I was wrong. I shouldn't have suspected you. I'm guilty. I repent. Hearing Su Wan's words, Ding Jijia immediately pounced on Su Wan and pulled her hand excitedly. Then, she pitifully lowered her head and rubbed against Su Wan's chest. Su Wan, damn. You're taking advantage of me, right? You're dirty, Ding Jijia. Su Wan pushed Ding Jijia out of her arms in disgust. Ding Jijia blinked her big eyes and looked at Su Wan with her charming face. Su Wan, you're the smartest. Hurry, help me think of a way. Help, my dear. It's not easy for me to meet a man that suits my taste. Su Wan was stunned. Su Wan was speechless. It's not easy for you to meet a man that doesn't suit your taste, right? Su Wan didn't want to criticize Ding Jijia's fickleness. You guys didn't encounter any danger before we came. No. Ding Jijia shook her head, her face a bit red. Oh my God, Su Wan, you should use your spiritual power to communicate with me. Why does your voice sound like a hypnotizing voice? Su Wan, damn. Why don't you say that you abyssal sirens are lascivious by nature? Su Wan glared at Ding Jijia and then used her mental power to ask, according to what you said, you and Frank had been separated for a period of time. During that time, you contacted Yi Xian and asked the headquarters for help. After Frank reunited with you, did you immediately tell him that you asked for help? Yeah. Ding Jijia nodded again and then her gaze darkened. Su Wan, could it be that you mean Frank's was impersonated by a law enforcer? Ding Jijia didn't say this out loud. Su Wan smiled mysteriously and said, we'll know if it's true or not. Since the law enforcers haven't appeared yet, what are we waiting for? Bring the saint-ranked necromancer and infernal demon king to bully the male and female leads. Damn you. Ding Jijia really wanted to strangle herself. Why didn't she think of this? The enforcers won't appear. Then let's go and torture the male and female leads. Let's see how he'll be able to endure it then. Whoever stopped him from abusing the main character would be the hidden enforcer. Okay. Su Wan, I love you too much. Ding Jijia happily pounced on Su Wan once again and fiercely kissed her on the face as fast as a thunderbolt. In the next second, Su Wan pushed her away in disdain. Seeing Su Wan wiping her face, Ding Jijia's face darkened. Su Wan, you don't have the love of your colleagues. Sob, I feel like I won't love you anymore. After Ding Jijia finally left happily, Su Wan couldn't help but sigh deeply in her room. She looked down and no one could see the glint in her eyes. Wife. Not long later, Su Rui opened the door and walked in. What did Ding Jijia say to you? Su Wan glanced at him. Don't tell me you didn't hear it. Su Wan had always been confident in General Su's perception and mental power. Ah. Su Rui couldn't help but smile awkwardly. Okay. Wife, I heard it all. Are you suspecting Frank too? No one knew what he went through in the soul death hell. Maybe he was really lucky and could escape time and time again. But what if everything was fake? Back then, the enforcer could use Ding Jijia's identity to lure Frank away. He could also kill Frank in the soul death hell and turn himself into Frank's appearance. Then he could banish or kill Ding Jijia. The reason why he didn't do anything was because Ding Jijia told him that she had reinforcements. Second, he might have gotten injured when he fought Frank in the soul death hell. It should be known that law enforcers could also be injured. They were in charge of many spacetimes. Every time they entered a spacetime, it was their soul body. They wouldn't truly die, but once their soul was injured, their combat power would decrease. They would find out soon enough if it was him or not. Su Wan smiled faintly at Su Rui and suddenly said, I'm sleepy. I'm going to sleep. Do you want to come? Ah. Su Rui's gaze darkened hearing his wife's demonic voice again. Go to sleep first. I'll sleep later and monitor the situation outside. Su Rui naturally wanted to monitor Frank's every move. Though he was a sage-level necromancer, his spiritual perception wasn't necessarily stronger than General Su's. Amen. I'm going to sleep. Good night. Su Wan nodded and then took off her shoes and jumped onto the bed. She didn't even take off her clothes and burrowed into the blankets, falling asleep soon after. Su Rui couldn't help but stare at Su Wan's face seeing her sleeping so soundly. Right now, he was releasing his perception network to sense everything in the courtyard. Oh. Great. Honey, you're great. Emin, little vixen, you're great too. Su Rui was speechless. Sensing that Ding Jijia and Frank were rolling in the bed in another room, Su Rui's expression darkened. The next morning, Su Wan noticed that Su Rui was meditating on a chair by the side when she woke up. Ah. Su Wan quietly got up but still startled Su Rui. Morning. Su Rui opened his eyes and smiled at her. Morning. You didn't sleep last night. Su Wan saw the dark circles under Su Rui's eyes and couldn't help but ask. General Su, do you have to work so hard? 24-hour eavesdropping. Su Rui was speechless. General Su felt bitter after being forced to listen to a dirty and violent broadcast for the entire night. He didn't expect Frank to look so skinny. Damn. He was practically about to transform into a wolf at night. He could even compete with General Su. As for Ding Jijia, Su Rui didn't want to comment on her anymore. She really had a lot of tricks up her sleeves. In the morning, the four ate breakfast together but there wasn't any awkwardness when they saw each other. After eating, Ding Jijia packed some things and put them in her spatial ring. The four were ready to set off. The journey from the stronghold to the teleportation station wasn't short but the four were pretty strong. Plus, Frank had a ferocious infernal demon king. Therefore, they arrived at the teleportation station without any danger. After arriving at the transmission station, Su Wan and Su Rui immediately discovered that familiar figure in the long queue of people. Damn. Isn't that Belia? Chapter 379. The Four's arrival caused a commotion in the group. Especially Frank's infernal demon king. Many people were intimidated by it. At this moment, Frank's was still wearing a pure black hoodie. Coupled with his cold and handsome face, he indeed looked like a male god. However, Su-won and Su-rui had long seen through his nature as a loser. Franks, this is a standard male lead template. He had a passable face, heaven-defying luck, girls throwing themselves at him, and all sorts of strange yet powerful followers or pets. Nanny. Su-won wanted to slap a male lead like him to death too. Belia. At this time, Su-rui quickly walked over to Belia and looked at him coldly. Why did you leave without saying goodbye that day? Although Belia wasn't too suspicious, his actions were indeed a little strange. Belia looked up coldly and looked at Su-rui arrogantly. Who are you? Do I know you? He wasn't I, but young master. Nanny. Your personality sure changed quickly. Su-rui didn't say anything and returned to the group. What's wrong with him? Ding Jijia also asked curiously. Su-rui didn't say anything. Instead, Su-won used her mental powers to describe Belia's identity to Ding Jijia. Two-headed infernal dog. Sounds like he's pretty good. Ding Jijia couldn't help but lick her lips and stare at Belia's back. Speaking of which, when this guy wasn't a sissy, he looked pretty handsome. Seeing Ding Jijia's interested gaze, Su-won couldn't help but pour cold water on her. I advise you not to provoke him. What if he suddenly changes his personality or transforms when you guys are having sex? I'm afraid you'll be traumatized for the rest of your life. Ding Jijia was speechless. Sob, Su-won, you really don't love me. My male god is the best. Ding Jijia couldn't help but look at Su-rui again. Male god is so handsome. Male god is so aloof. Male god has such a temperament. Male god is already taken. Ding Jijia felt her heart dripping blood thinking that such a high-quality male god was someone else's. Su-won, did you forget what you said yesterday? That you and Franks were in love with each other and that you were in love with each other? Su-won, everyone in the department knows that you and Su-rui are together. Are you two really together? At this time, Ding Jijia couldn't help but use her spiritual power to communicate with Su-won. After Su-won did the rescue mission, everyone knew who she saved. It was actually people from that side. Was this the plain version of Romeo and Juliet? Bah, it was said that it was a tragedy. Hearing Ding Jijia's question, Su-won lowered her eyes and smiled slightly. Ding Jijia, you like Su-rui? No. A gentleman doesn't steal someone's love. I'm loved by my colleagues, so why would I steal my colleague's man? Ding Jijia's impatient voice immediately echoed in Su-won's mind, but Su-won still had an indifferent expression. If you really like him, you can chase after him. If you succeed, then you'll have the ability. Ding Jijia, was she hallucinating? Su-won actually told her to chase after Su-rui. While Ding Jijia was confused, Su-won's voice rang in her mind again. Didn't you also suspect that person? Why don't you try and see his reaction? Ding Jijia was speechless. I knew that Su-won wouldn't be so easy to talk to. Why would she really tell her to chase after her man? Ahem, what if he really caught up to her? Ding Jijia, you're thinking too much. Hey, those people over there. Belia, who was standing in front of the teleportation formation, suddenly shouted, do you guys want to come with me? Cough. I just happen to have a seat here. I'm not here to return your favor. Ah. Such a tsundere young master was really enough. In the end, Su-won, Su-rui, and the others followed Belia back. They still didn't spend a single cent. It felt good to follow a rich person. Returning to the middle layer of the abyss, they looked at the gray sky and the red moon. Everything seemed especially familiar. No matter how dark this place was, it was still much better than the deep layer of the abyss. "Where are you guys going?" Coming out of the teleportation formation, Belia still brought a group of servants with him. Of course, this group was different from the ones he brought with him last time. The young master of a large family had a grand entrance. "We're going back to Beak City." Su-Rui heard Belia's words and couldn't help but murmur. "Beak City." Belia lifted his brows. "So you guys are from Beak City. You guys don't know yet, right? There's been a rebellion in Beak City recently. The original overlord, Sakito, died in battle and his daughter married the new overlord, Asino." A complicated glint flickered through Belia's eyes when he mentioned Asino's name. Although Belia had been in the deep layer of the abyss to complete the mission his family gave him, he was still well informed. He knew everything that happened in the middle layer of the abyss. Asino actually became the overlord so quickly. Su-Wan's gaze darkened. As expected, his departure made Lika feel a sense of danger. So, she married Asino in advance and helped him take over Beak City. "It seems like we need to go to Beak City immediately." Hearing Belia's words, Ding Jiajia's gaze turned serious. Asino and Lika were different from the other male and female leads. In other worlds, no matter how deep the relationship was, at least the male and female lead would have a deep relationship. However, Lika and Asino only had a subordinate relationship. Lika attached herself to Asino. Of course, she might like Asino too. But in the deep abyss, liking and love were extravagant emotions. With Lika's lowly mentality, she didn't dare to hope that Asino would love her. As for the high and mighty Asino, he simply enjoyed Lika's obedience and attachment. There was only one way to separate them other than making Asino abandon Lika. That was to kill. Kill a person's existence. When a world lost a main character, the rules of the entire world would change. Then the executioner wouldn't be able to continue enforcing the law. Ding Jiajia and Su-Wan could complete their mission and leave. With that in mind, the few of them quickly headed towards Beak City. Belia smiled faintly as he watched the four of them leave. "Young master." The servant looked at Belia in confusion. "Young master, why did you tell them about Beak City?" "Ha!" Belia smiled faintly. "That Lon Pa is Sakito's daughter's guardian magic warrior. Why would a guardian magic warrior leave the city alone and have a demon with him? And that abyss goblin is actually a very powerful alchemist. Feet Family's information network was really powerful." The moment Belia saw Su-Wan, he knew his identity. Because he knew his identity, he purposely got close to him. Su. That wasn't the demon's name. It was the daughter of Beak City's overlord. Chapter 380. Beak City. The massacre and unrest from a few days ago still left a thick smell of blood in Beak City. Everything in the Overlord's residence had been renovated by the high-level magic craftsmen. Lika had also rearranged her palace. Lika had also sent people to seal the magic alchemy laboratory that belonged to Her Highness Su. Everything inside had been destroyed. Right now, Beak City had to go through strict checks when entering and exiting the city. Su-Wan and Su-Rui's portraits were pasted all over the city. The two had become the most wanted criminals in Beak City. Thankfully, Su-Rui had seen the wanted posters when he passed by the nearby town. Ding Jiajia went out and bought a magician's hooded cloak for the two. Right now, the two's faces were covered by the large brim of the hat. Standing with Frank, they really looked like a group of necromancers traveling far away. It's easy for the magicians guarding the city to see through just their clothes. The four of them settled down in a small town outside of Becker. Su-Wan took off the hat on her head and looked at the three people in front of her and whispered. Everyone looked at her in surprise when they heard her voice. Xiao Wan, do you have any ideas? Ding Jijia looked at Su Wan excitedly. She actually really liked Su Wan's voice right now. I remember that necromancers know alchemy. They can refine a magic medicine that can change a person's appearance and voice. Frank, do you know that alchemy? Hearing Su Wan's question, a blank expression flashed past Frank's face. Then he looked down as if he was thinking hard about something. In the end, Frank shook his head. Su Wan, there are no records of this kind of alchemy in the magic books I've learned. Did you remember incorrectly? Oh. Su Wan smiled. Then I might have remembered incorrectly, but it's fine. Su Rui and I can wait for you guys here. Frank alone is enough to deal with Asino. Ding Jijia, go and cheer for him. We'll wait for your good news tomorrow. No problem. Ding Jijia smiled and snapped her fingers. Leave it to us. It was night, and the crimson moon was enchanting. A magic lamp was lit in Su Wan's room. Some alchemy equipment and materials were placed on the table in her room. She had been concentrating on developing magic potions. Not long after, she developed a few test tubes. Looking at the different colored potions in the test tubes, Su Wan couldn't help but wrinkle her brows. She refined these potions according to the memories of the original owner. The original owner had only seen some records in magic books and had never personally refined them. Therefore, Su Wan didn't know if the medicine in her hands would work or not. She needed to catch some low-level abyssal magic beasts tomorrow morning to experiment. The next day, Ding Jijia and Franks left with the infernal demon king early in the morning. Wife, do you think Franks can kill Asino? Su Rui stood in the courtyard and couldn't help but ask as he watched the two leave. I can't. Su Wan slowly opened her mouth, her tone firm. Frank couldn't kill Asino. Su Wan believed this without a doubt. Otherwise, she wouldn't have needed to refine the magic medicine last night. Su Rui, where's the azure crystal I gave you last time? Give it to me. Su Rui froze. Wife, what are you going to do with it? Of course it's to deal with Franks. If he's really an executioner, then even the three of us might not be able to defeat him. Don't forget that he has a high-level infernal demon king. Furthermore, no one knows what kind of trump cards he has up his sleeves. In fact, his identity, his name, and everything about him might all be fake. Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rui's gaze froze and his eyes brightened. Wife, were you testing him on purpose last night? That's right. There's no alchemy in necromancy, but Franks hesitated for so long. It's clear that he's worried about his memory. When he was hesitating, it was obvious that he was searching through his memories. Wife, you're amazing. Su Rui smiled as he placed the azure crystal in her hands. Are you planning on using it to refine magic medicine? No. I'm going to set up a magic seal in the courtyard. Once I activate the seal, I'll control the magic circle. You and Ding Jijia can attack Franks together. You have to make sure to hit him in one hit. Emin, hearing his wife's words, General Su immediately nodded. Right now, Beak City. Ding Jijia and Franks were interrogated strictly when they arrived outside Beak City. But because they weren't suspicious, they were let into the city. The infernal demon king had shrunk into a mini version of the little corpse king pet. Although it still looked ugly, it was much smaller and could stand on Frank's shoulders. After entering Beak City, Ding Jijia first went to the alchemy material store in the city. She bought quite a few alchemy materials in one go. Seeing her spending crystal coins in such a wealthy manner, Frank couldn't help but look at Ding Jijia in confusion. Darling, do you want to learn alchemy? No, I'm buying them for her. She might be able to use them in the future. Ding Jijia didn't fully believe Franks either. Su-won told her that Franks couldn't kill a Sino. Therefore, Ding Jie decided to buy some alchemy materials as backup. If Franks really couldn't kill the male lead, then she'd have to ask Su-won and Su-won for help. Putting the things she bought into the spatial ring, Ding Jie pulled Franks outside the Overlord's residence. The renovated Overlord's residence looked really luxurious. Ding Jie's gaze flickered seeing the armored guards at the entrance. In the next second, a black light flew out of her hand. Whoosh! The fierce magic attack directly hit the armor of the guards at the entrance. One of the guards fell to the ground on the spot, while the other paled and clutched his chest. At the last moment, he used his mana to burn the magic communication talisman of the Lord's mansion. Not long after, a large group of mages and magic warriors surrounded Ding Jie and Frank in the center. "Dear, it's time for you to show off your skills." Mwah. Ding Jie smiled and took a step back, giving the position to Franks. Franks nodded coldly hearing Ding Jie's words. He took a step forward and chanted a few incantations. Then the infernal demon king jumped down from his shoulder, gradually returning to its original size. Roar! An earth-shattering roar resounded in the sky above Beak City. The entire Overlord's residence shook. "It's here." Asino was meditating in the residence when he suddenly opened his eyes. Golden light flickered in and out of his eyes. Saint Rank Necromancer. Chapter 381. Beak City was in a mess. In the small town outside the city, Su-won and Su-rui were busy with their own things. Su-rui had been meditating while Su-won was busy in the kitchen. She bought some low-level magical beasts in the morning. She used some of them for experiments and the rest were turned into ingredients for the pot. No matter what, she had to eat something good today. Wife. Su-won was stewing when Su-rui suddenly entered the kitchen. Wife, I sense Ding Jie and Frank's aura. Oh. They're back so soon. Su-won's gaze flickered. She smiled and walked out of the kitchen. Su-rui, go watch the courtyard. I'll set up the magic array in the courtyard. Okay. Su-rui nodded and walked out quickly. Meanwhile, Su-won took out a stack of magic scrolls. She wrote them herself. They were necessities for setting up the magic array. Silently reciting a few magic incantations, Su-won immediately scattered those magic scrolls. A pentagram-shaped magic array was faintly discernible on the ground and then completely concealed itself in the courtyard. Looking at the magic array that had disappeared, the corner of Su-won's mouth curled up in a proud arc. She took out the magic medicine from her bosom and then sprinkled all of the medicine on the magic array. Second layering of the magic array. Perfect. Rumble, rumble. The enormous infernal demon king's body gradually appeared above the small town. Everywhere it went, the magical beasts avoided it. Right now, the infernal demon king was holding an unconscious person. That person was Ding Jie. What's going on? Su-rui's gaze landed on Frank. His magic robe was in tatters and there were bloodstains on the corner of his lips that hadn't dried yet. Frank's words were intermittent. He jumped down from the infernal demon king's shoulder and then hugged Ding Jie. Jie became like this to save me. I am sorry. Actually, stop talking. Come in first. Su-rui interrupted Frank's words, indicating for him to carry Ding Jie into the courtyard first. Frank nodded. He carried Ding Jie and walked inside. The moment they entered the courtyard, a blinding white light suddenly lit up the courtyard. This is, Frank screamed in pain, but he didn't let go of Ding Jie. You guys are, after a sharp pain, Frank realized that he couldn't move. He couldn't use his magic, and he couldn't even control the infernal demon king. Could this be the legendary magic sealing array? Frank widened his eyes and looked at them in shock. Could you guys stop acting? I'll send you to heaven right now. Su-Rui suddenly appeared in front of Frank. Under Frank's shocked gaze, Su-Rui slowly pulled out his sword and swung it down. At this critical moment, Su-Wan, who had been controlling the formation behind him, suddenly chanted an incantation and Su-Rui's entire body immediately stopped there. Stop acting. I'll send you to heaven right now. The same words, the same tone. Ding Jia, who was supposed to be unconscious in Frank's arms, suddenly opened her eyes. She smiled coquettishly and took out a dagger emitting demonic aura, accurately piercing Su-Rui's heart. Goodbye, executioner. He saw through me. Su-Rui smiled. Mission Enforcer, you're really not simple. Thank you for the compliment. Ding Jia smiled and pulled out the dagger. Looking at the blood on the tip, she smiled and licked it. Seriously. I actually killed my Adonis. What a pity. I haven't even gotten intimate with my Adonis yet. Ding Jia, do you want to die? Su-Wan's face was pale as she stared coldly at Ding Jia. Ah. I'm joking. Ding Jia immediately threw down the dagger and looked innocently at Su-Wan. Su-Wan, how did you find out? Right now, the Su-Rui in front of her was slowly turning transparent. When the executioner was fatally injured, he would be forced to leave this time-space and then he wouldn't be able to enter again for a long time. Su-Rui always thought that he was flawless. At least from the memories he received, he felt like he was acting very well. Of course, the only thing he was lacking was that he wasn't used to being intimate with unfamiliar people. You're not him. So even if you have his appearance and all of his memories, you're not him. Su-Wan's complexion was also very unsightly right now because supporting this two-layer magic formation had already exhausted all the magic energy in her body. The Abyss Goblins were a race with very low magic power. Ha! The executioner smiled with a complicated expression. I'm actually quite envious of you guys. I can tell that you guys have a good relationship. Plus, he's really strong. Saying this, the executioner's expression even twisted slightly. Damn it. He'd never seen such a strong man before. Back then, after he killed Frank in the Soul Death Purgatory, he was planning on transforming into Frank and attacking Ding Jia. But at that time, the time-space alarm rang again. Only then did he know that a mission enforcer had entered this time-space. Plus, there was a high chance that he was Ding Jia's helper. Therefore, he couldn't care about Ding Jia and teleported to Beak City instead. At that time, Su-Wan had already entered the mission and Su-Rui had just connected. In comparison, the executioner naturally chose Su-Rui who hadn't entered the mission yet. He planned on attacking Su-Rui's soul and then using his identity to plot against Su-Wan. Then, he would go find Ding Jia. Defeating them one by one was the perfect plan. But who knew that Su-Rui's mental power was ridiculously strong? In the process of fighting over the body, the executioner's soul was heavily injured. In the end, he had to use his life-saving talisman to barely cut off the connection. Therefore, from the start, Su-Rui hadn't entered the mission. While the mission enforcer was fighting over the body, he received a lot of Su-Rui's memories. In Su-Rui's memories, there was only one person and that was Su-Wan. All of his memories revolved around that woman. When he received this memory, the executioner was shocked. Thankfully, Su-Rui remembered everything that happened with Su-Wan. Therefore, in the beginning, the executioner played Su-Rui's role perfectly without Su-Wan noticing. It was just that the two were too familiar with each other. After a while, Su-won naturally noticed General Su's abnormality. This Su-rui gave Su-won a weird feeling. After successfully meeting up with Ding Jijia, Su-won felt that Su-rui was different. After understanding the executioner's abilities, Su-won thought of a possibility. Could Su-rui be an executioner in disguise? But shouldn't the executioner be chasing after Frank? Why did he give up on Frank and pretend to be Su-rui? The legendary executioner was really powerful. If he was pretending to be Su-rui, why didn't he attack her? Chapter 382. There would be an answer to all the questions in the world. Su-won understood Su-rui's ability. If he was real, he would definitely be able to tell that Ding Jijia was real. Because a person's appearance could be changed and their memory could be copied but their soul aura couldn't. Therefore, if Su-rui was real, then Ding Jijia must be real. If Su-rui was fake, then Ding Jijia wouldn't be a suspect. Therefore, Su-won knew that she could only trust Ding Jijia in this world right now. Therefore, when she was chatting with Ding Jijia that day, Su-won actually gave Ding Jijia a secret code. It was a secret code that belonged to their department. Other people wouldn't be able to tell. Ding Jijia could tell Su-won's identity from the secret code. After finding out that Su-won was suspicious of Frank and Su-rui, she naturally thought of ways to test Frank. With this test, she immediately found out the problem. Nanny. So the one I like is a devilishly cold and aloof Adonis, okay? Is it really okay for you to use an otaku who has never seen a woman to fool me? What little vixen? What little baby? Nanny, you must have read too many big CEOs. Ding Jijia spent the whole night and found out that Frank was an imposter. What a loser. His skills were bad but he inherited the original's good stamina. In short, he was a scam. When Ding Jijia secretly told Su-won the results of her test, Su-won already had a plan. Now, it was clear that the answer had surfaced. Why didn't the executioner go after Frank? Because he thought that she killed Frank. No, to be precise, the previous Frank was killed by the executioner. Now, this Frank was a fake transmigrator. That's right. A loser who didn't have a good career and love life became a handsome Adonis after transmigrating. All day long, he fantasized about beautiful women throwing themselves at him and wouldn't marry anyone else. This was the standard model of a sissy male lead. As for why the executioner hid his identity and didn't make a move. That was because he was also heavily injured by General Su. He no longer had the ability to fight against Su-won, Ding Jijia, and the others. That was why he had to hide his identity and mislead everyone. After making a preliminary judgment, Su-won began to test Frank in front of Su-rui, and then acted like she was going to deal with Frank. After deceiving his trust, Su-won asked for the azure crystal back. Similarly, she also prepared all the materials for the magic suppression array. When the executioner completely disappeared, Frank was still standing in the same spot, widening his eyes at Ding Jijia and Su-won. Everything happened too quickly. He couldn't react in time. Jijia, what's going on? Su-rui was a law enforcer. You guys defeated him. Let me go. Frank tried his best to struggle but he couldn't get out of Su-won's magic suppression formation. This doesn't make sense. He was the male lead from another world. As soon as he transmigrated, an infernal demon king inexplicably recognized him as his master. Then, a devilish siren with a devilish figure came out and threw herself at him. Damn! He was definitely walking on the path of a winner in life. Even in Beak City, Asino received the news from the executioner and prepared a formation to deal with necromancers. But didn't he escape unscathed? Ding Jijia sighed when she saw Frank's look of disbelief. Young man, you're really naive. Do you think that as destroyers, we'll just watch a main character walk to the peak of life right under our noses? She was definitely joking, right? All the dangers and main characters had to be strangled in the cradle. Ding Jijia smiled and picked up the dagger on the ground. She blew in front of Frank. Say, after you die this time, will you continue transmigrating? Darling. Jijia, don't mess around. Once married, we'll be together for the rest of our lives. You and I, It was fine if Frank didn't say anything. The moment he did, Ding Jijia felt uncomfortable. Who was this baby? After going through so many time spaces, she had to be a top-notch Adonis. Damn it, his illustrious reputation had been ruined by this little imposter. Even if he were to be killed, it wouldn't be too late. After Franks died, the infernal demon king, who had been standing outside the yard in a daze, immediately turned into a pile of bones after losing its master. Done. Ding Jijia snapped out of her trance and saw Su Wan looking at her with a twinkle in her eyes. What's wrong? Ding Jijia asked in surprise. Nothing. Su Wan smiled. I thought you were going to keep him to deal with Asino. Su Wan, you don't believe in my strength, right? I'm telling you. Asino, that self-righteous demon king, and Lika, that shameless slut. I can take care of them in minutes. Men in this world are all evil. There's nothing I can't take care of. Of course, there are exceptions. Your Su Wan isn't bad. Although she had only interacted with the fake General Su, Ding Jijia already had a preliminary judgment of General Su's cold and aloof nature. Nanny. The fake one was so noble and aloof. Then how hard was it to get in touch with the real one? Hearing Ding Jijia mention Su Rue, Su Wan's expression changed. Okay, let's get ready. We'll be entering Beak City tomorrow. Since you're so confident, then show us your skills and take care of Asino. The sooner she finished the mission, the sooner she could leave. Su Wan knew that Su Wan must be really worried about her. Ding Jijia's gaze flickered seeing Su Wan's expression. Su Wan, you know that he's an imposter, so why can't you do it yourself? If it was me, I'd definitely kill him myself to feel good. Su Wan smiled helplessly hearing Ding Jijia's words. Although it's not him, it's still wearing his face. I can't bear to do it. She couldn't bear to do it because of General Su's appearance. TSK. So mushy. No wonder Yi Axian wanted to seal your memories. You too are mushy. If we don't seal your memories, wouldn't you betray us? Betray us? He's the one who betrays us. Su Wan smiled confidently. As long as she asked, Su Wan definitely wouldn't reject her request. However, what if he had no memories? At that time, would she and Su Rue be true opponents and enemies? Actually, Su Wan was looking forward to the duel with Su Wan. But before the duel, she also had to ensure that she wouldn't die in the hands of others. After all, there were still many strong people among the mission enforcers. At this time, Lost Space, Plane Restorer Headquarters. Su Rue and Su Su were sitting face to face. How's your injury? Su Su's voice was as gentle as water. Hearing his words, Su Rue coldly narrowed his eyes. I've been fine for a long time. I request to enter the mission again. I won't let you in. The test will start the day after tomorrow. If nothing goes wrong, Su Wan and Ding Jijia will definitely be able to return from the mission world tomorrow. Su Wan, don't you believe in Su Wan's ability? Don't believe. It's not that he doesn't believe, but he misses her. The two people who were used to being together all the time, suddenly separated. He always felt that he was missing something and felt uncomfortable all over. This feeling had been engraved in Su Rui's bones. He believed that even if he lost his memory, he would never do anything to Su Wan. His love for her was deep in his bones. It couldn't be erased by memories. Even if he forgot everything, he believed that he could still instinctively love her and protect her. Chapter 383. Beak City, the Overlord's residence. Recently, Asino had been in a bad mood. Maybe it was because of the saint-level necromancer a few days ago. Lika only found out after the incident. It turned out that a saint-level necromancer had brought an infernal demon king to the Overlord's residence to cause trouble. Luckily, someone had informed Asino beforehand and he had made all the preparations. However, that saint-level necromancer's luck was off the charts. He managed to escape from all the traps and encirclement. With such a strong enemy, he naturally couldn't eat or sleep in peace. Seeing that the Triennial Overlord's gathering was about to begin, as the new Overlord of Beak City, Asino naturally had to attend Weya City. Weya City was Feet Clan's territory. Thinking of that clan, Asino's gaze couldn't help but turn gloomy. This day, Asino had just come out of his room when he saw the steward of the Overlord's residence rushing over. "Overlord, Mr. Belia from Feet Clan requests to see you." Belia. Hearing this familiar name, Asino's gaze sharpened. Let him wait in the guest hall. After changing into a luxurious robe, Asino slowly walked into the guest hall. The moment he entered, he saw Belia sitting there leisurely. He was still wearing the silver-white robe. In this dark abyss, it was especially eye-catching. Belia, the third heir of Feet Clan. He was also the third son of the current head of Feet Clan, Feet Styles. Seeing Asino, Belia raised his brows nonchalantly. "Io, isn't this Overlord Asino? Long time no see." "Humph." Asino snorted coldly. He lifted his gaze and looked behind Belia. There were two women standing behind him. One of them was the abyssal siren who had caused trouble with the saint-level necromancer that day. The other was the abyssal demon enchantress with an ugly appearance. Could that necromancer be Belia's man? Thinking of this possibility, Asino's gaze immediately darkened. Belia also noticed the change in Asino's emotions. He clapped his hands and immediately called Ding Jijia to his side. "Overlord Asino, this is Shweli. She has something to pass to you." "My lord." Ding Jijia stepped forward and looked at Asino coquettishly. She took out a big box from her spatial ring and said, "This is Shweli's apology gift to you, lord." Asino focused and waved his sleeves. The lid of the box automatically fell off, revealing what was inside. It was Frank's head. Asino didn't expect to meet the saint-level necromancer in such a situation. "You killed him." Asino looked at Ding Jijia, who was in front of him. Ding Jijia smiled charmingly. "How can I have that ability?" Asino turned to look at Belia. "It's you." Belia smiled. "Asino, do you want to work with me?" "Cooperation." Asino's expression changed and he looked at Belia in shock. "Is there a need for us to work together?" "Why not?" Belia stood up and smiled at Asino. "You're the traitor of the Feet family, and I'm their abandoned child. We can work together to overthrow the Feet family and establish our own order in the Middle Abyss." Asino smiled. "That's right." Asino actually came from the Feet family too. But because he was the reincarnation of a demon king, he didn't have the bloodline of the underworld demon race. When he just reached adulthood, he couldn't activate the bloodline of the underworld demon race, so he was chased out by the Feet family, Escino hesitated hearing Belia's suggestion. In the end, he agreed to work with Belia. Escino more or less knew about Belia's situation in the Feet family. Therefore, he didn't need to worry about Belia's sincerity. At least up until now, their enemies were the same. Before Belia left, he left Ding Jijia and Su Wan in Beak City. Was this his sincerity to work together? No. To Escino, this was just someone Belia was using to monitor him. Of course, this didn't matter to Su Wan and Ding Jijia. They just wanted a chance to move into the Overlord's residence. As for Belia, Su Wan merely made a deal with him. Belia wanted the power of the Feet family. Su Wan and Ding Jijia happened to know a lot of the Feet family's secrets, so they used them to make a deal with Belia. Both sides took what they needed. Ding Jijia's residence in Beak City was huge. As her personal maid, Su Wan naturally stayed by Ding Jijia's side all day. Right now, Su Wan had used a magic medicine to change her appearance and voice so no one could recognize her identity. Ever since she found out that a beautiful demonic woman moved into the Overlord's residence, Lika had been anxious. She was scared that Escino would be taken away by that demonic woman. Of course, men could have many women in the abyss. But thinking that she only had Escino. If he was taken away, she would have nothing. Lika felt really uncomfortable. Although Lika was using the identity of Her Highness Su, she still treated herself as a lowly slave of the goblin race. Hence, she could only rely on Escino. She treated Escino as her everything. Not long after Ding Jijia entered the Overlord's residence, she successfully fell in love with Escino and they stuck together like glue. Su Wan really admired Ding Jijia's ability. Seeing that Escino was becoming colder and colder, Lika could only try her best to do good deeds in Beak City. She adopted a lot of sold demonic slaves. Of course, these slaves all had certain flaws. Lika didn't dare to take the young and beautiful ones into the Overlord's residence. She only adopted the ugly and handicapped ones. To the other people in the abyss, this Overlord's madam was so dumb and so kind that it made people speechless. But even so, Lika's name as the great benefactor of the abyss still spread. Those who couldn't survive in the abyss all came over to ask her to take them in. Not long after, Lika took in a few hundred people. Beak City's income was stable every year. It wasn't a problem to take care of a few hundred people, but Ding Jijia wouldn't let Lika live that easily. Under Ding Jijia's suggestion, Escino decided to let the slaves that Lika adopted do free labor in the Overlord's residence. Lika naturally wouldn't reject Escino's decision. Plus, she felt that since she gave them hope in life, they could use labor to repay her. This was a very fair thing, right? Needless to say, Lika imagined the demons to be too gentle and kind. Chapter 384. Wasteland Mountain Range, Refined Iron Mine. This was a mine that belonged to Beak City and also Escino's private property. Originally, they hired wandering demons from the city to do hard labor. But now, the entire mine was filled with demons that Lika adopted from the outside. The succubus race had weak bodies. The succubus race's men were better off, but the succubus race's women were petite, and their strength was much weaker than ordinary female devil races. Therefore, they were whipped many times a day. Plus, they worked here for free. The Overlord's residence only provided them with 3 meals a day and a place to stay. Of course, there were people who tried to leave or escape. Those who escaped were caught and tortured to death with fire magic. As for those who wanted to leave, the Overlord's residence allowed them to leave, but the prerequisite was that they had to take out enough crystal coins to exchange for their freedom. After all, Lika had spent a lot of crystal coins to save them. Vivian was one of the rescued abyssal enchantresses. Because she was thin and weak, she was often beaten. As time passed, her body became weaker and weaker, even worse than when she was sold. At this time, her gratitude towards Lika had turned into endless resentment. What kind person? It was all a lie. It was the Overlord's wife's lie. Slap. The pain on her back made Vivian come back to her senses. She lifted her head slightly and met the guard's cold and emotionless eyes. Are you slacking off? Hurry up and work. Otherwise, you won't get to eat tonight. There was a burning pain on her back, but Vivian could only continue to bend over and work. Perhaps it was because her body was too weak, she had only taken a few steps when her vision blurred and she fell to the ground. Hey! I'm talking to you. Hurry up and get up. The whip that was mixed with magic fell again, and Vivian closed her eyes in resignation. Stop! A low, hoarse voice sounded, and Vivian froze. The whip that she expected did not fall. She opened her eyes and raised her head to look at the woman slowly walking over under the red moonlight. She was also an abyssal demon, but she was wearing a clean magic robe, and her calm and ordinary face carried a frightening coldness. So it's Madame Su Wan. Naturally, it was Su Wan. She had been by Ding Jiejia's side the entire time. She didn't even change her name. Although to the demons in the abyss, her name was awkward and tongue-twisting, but she was Miss Xuan Li's favorite person. Who in Beak City didn't know Miss Xuan Li? Although she was an abyssal siren, she was a mutated abyssal siren. She had very powerful abilities, and with her beautiful appearance, she was the Overlord's favorite woman. Because of Ding Jijia, Su Wan was considered a celebrity in Beak City. After all, she was Ding Jijia's maid and a trusted confidant. Madame Su Wan, why are you here? Tell me if you need anything. In front of Su Wan, the guard immediately lowered his posture and even his tone was especially flattering. Vivian, who was at the side, was full of envy when she saw his two faces. They were both members of the Abyss Demon race. When would she be able to break the seal and speak like this lord? Would she not have to be enslaved by others? Seeing the envy in Vivian's eyes, Su Wan's lips curled. Miss Xuan Li wants this demon. I'm taking her with me. Yes, yes. The guard immediately walked over and unlocked Vivian's magic shackles. You're so lucky. Hurry and leave with Madam. Vivian stood up in disbelief. Because she was too excited, she tried a few times to steady herself. Right now, she couldn't speak, but she blinked her big eyes and looked at Su Wan with a happy and timid expression. Okay, come with me. Su Wan didn't say anything and turned to leave. Naturally, Vivian quickly followed him. The two of them sat in the Overlord's mansion's carriage and soon arrived at Ding Jijia's residence. Ding Jijia's gaze flickered seeing the person Su Wan brought back. This is the person you chose? Yes. Su Wan nodded. While Ding Jijia was busy consolidating her relationship with Asino, Su Wan had been keeping an eye on the mine for a long time. She picked Vivian out of thousands. You chose her. I don't need to worry. This appearance, tisk tsk tsk. She's really a weirdo among the demons. Hearing Ding Jijia's words, Vivian subconsciously shrunk her neck and lowered her head even more. That's right, abyssal demons were small and exquisite. Although they weren't as seductive as abyssal sirens, they were still very delicate and pretty. However, Vivian was very ugly. This was also why she couldn't be sold for a good price and was often sold in the slave market. If she could choose, she definitely wouldn't want to become so ugly. If she could choose, she wouldn't even want to be a demon. But did she have a choice? Vivian, do you want to become beautiful? At this time, Su Wan's hoarse voice sounded, as if she had seen through Vivian's thoughts. Her tone was filled with fatal temptation. Why wouldn't she want to? In the endless abyss, even if she didn't have martial strength, she should at least have a good appearance. That way, she could rely on men to survive. This wasn't looking down on herself. This was the law of survival in the abyss. Seeing Vivian's sparkling gaze, Su-won continued to smile. I can help you become beautiful and help you obtain a high and mighty position. I can even make you a high and mighty demon noble. How was this possible? Vivian looked like she heard a fantasy. She stared at Su-won in disbelief, staring at her every move. Su-won took out a small dagger from her bosom. Tonight, Miss Schwelly will send you to the Lord's Madam. You just need to take advantage of the fact that no one is paying attention and insert this dagger into her body. Remember to avoid the vital parts and just injure her. Of course, you don't have to do as I say and I won't send you back to the mine. You can be a lowly slave here for the rest of your life. Hearing Su-won's words, Vivian quickly snatched the dagger from Su-won's hand without hesitation. Su-won smiled in satisfaction. Ding Jia also laughed. Not bad. Su-won, you're good at reading people. I like ambitious women who dare to do great things. Green tea bitches and white lotuses were the most annoying. That night. Murder. Murder. Help. A low-level maid's scream came from the palace that Liko lived in. Liko was on the ground right now. She tried to gather her magic but failed. How did this happen? A figure slowly appeared in the darkness. It's you. Liko looked at Su-won's figure and exclaimed in shock, Schwelly sent you guys to kill me. I can't threaten her anymore. Why is she still so vicious? Vicious? Liko, are you sure you're not talking about yourself? Su-won picked up the magic potion and smeared it on her face. She immediately returned to her original appearance. Your Highness. Liko screamed in fear. How could it be Your Highness Su? Liko, I don't care that you forcibly took my identity but you wanted to work with Asino to kill my father and invade Beak City. Liko, I'm here to collect my debt from you today. Saying this, Su-won took out a bottle of magic medicine again and gently sprinkled it. Liko immediately fainted on the ground. Vivian, go and lie down beside Liko. Su-won ordered and Vivian immediately did as she was told. What a good child. Vivian, close your eyes. In a few minutes, you'll be the Overlord's Madam of Beak City. Overlord's Madam. Vivian's mind was greatly shaken, and she immediately obediently closed her eyes. 3 months later, Beak City. The Overlord's gathering that happened once every 3 years was held as scheduled. During the gathering, Asino and Belia suddenly rose in revolt. The two worked together, causing the entire Feet family to be in chaos. After a short period of cooperation, Asino and Belia had a falling out. Ding Jia naturally took this chance to leave Beak City with Su-won. Right now, Asino still only had one wife in Beak City. Of course, to outsiders and Asino, this person was Her Highness Su. Only she knew that she was actually Vivian. That day, Su-won gave Vivian a dagger that specifically targeted souls. She weakened Lika's soul and then used a soul-forbidden spell to swap her and Vivian's souls. This time, the experiment was very successful. When Vivian opened her eyes, she was already the high and mighty Overlord's Madam. As for the ugly and low-class demon, she was locked in prison and after endless torture, she was thrown out half-dead. Right now, Asino had started his conquest in the middle layer of the abyss. He and Vivian sat on the carriage pulled by magical beasts and walked through the streets of Beak City. Countless demons prostrated themselves and worshipped them. In the most dilapidated area of the city, a dirty and ugly demon looked in Asino and Vivian's direction, weakly opening her mouth. She wanted to tell everyone that she was the real Overlord's madam, but unfortunately, she couldn't even walk right now, let alone speak. Chapter 385. Su-won and Ding Jijia returned to the lost time space earlier than Yi Axayan had predicted. It was still late at night in the lost time space. You two go back and rest. Come with me to the headquarters at 8 tomorrow morning. Hearing Yi Axayan's words, Ding Jijia immediately turned around and left with excitement. Oh yeah. Trial time space, this baby is coming. Male gods, don't worry. This baby will pamper you guys one by one. Looking at Ding Jijia's dancing figure leaving, Yi Axayan was speechless. She turned her head and looked at Su-won. You should also rest well. I've already applied for your matters. When you enter the trial connection chamber tomorrow, it will automatically block all memories of Su-rui in your mind. Emin, got it. Su-won nodded. After saying goodbye to Yi Axayan, she returned to her room. She hadn't rested in her room for a long time. In the past, she was busy accumulating points and doing missions. But now, she was busy being with Su-rui. She had no attachment to this time-space anymore. Su-rui, what would we be like when we meet again? Though she was a bit nervous, Su-won was more excited and excited. This was her first and last time participating in the trial in the lost time space. She was tired. She wanted to rest. Her heart had found a place to return to. Then this trial would be her farewell as a mission enforcer. The next morning, Su-won woke up early. She found a bright red dress in her wardrobe and wore it. Her black curly hair lazily scattered on her shoulders. Su-won touched her face. She was not like Ding Jijia, who had a baby face that otakus loved dearly, but her appearance and temperament were very pure and gentle. She really didn't have a trace of a queen's aura. Instead, she was like a weak little sheep. However, this sheep would eat people. Indifference and tenderness, the contradictory temperament made Su-won look very eye-catching. When she and Ding Jijia followed Yi Axayan into the hall of the headquarters, the three peerless beauties with different styles immediately caused a burst of screams in the hall. In the midst of the screams, a coquettish man in a white suit slowly walked up to the three of them and said with a smile, "Beauty, want a date?" Yi Axayan's face darkened. "Yi Kanhwan, get the fuck out of here. Little Axayan, you really don't have love." Yi Kanhwan looked hurt. He turned around and stared at Ding Jijia's chest. "Jijia, do you want a date?" Yo. Ding Jijia smiled coquettishly and walked up to grab Yi Kanhwan's arm. Her towering breasts subtly rubbed against his arm. Yi Kanhwan immediately broke free from Ding Jijia's hand as if he was electrocuted. Ding Jijia, that was why it was said that dead virgins and whatnot were the most loveless and annoying. Annoying. Seeing Yi Kanhwan's embarrassed expression, the expressionless Su-won revealed a rare smile. At this time, another man in a white suit walked over. He was Yi Kanhwan's superior, the #1 minister of the Rebirth Department, Qin Yu. "He's here." Qin Yu was familiar with the people in her department. He smiled and greeted them. Then, he grabbed Yi Kanhwan's collar and pulled him behind him. "Lin Ruo, take him back and teach him a lesson. Don't let him out in the future and embarrass the Rebirth Department." Yi Kanhwan was speechless. Right now, Master Yi felt that the entire world was filled with malice. "Yes." Qin Yu replied with a cold yes. Then, Yi Kanhwan was dragged away by Lin Ruo, who had been wearing a cold expression. Then, there was a wave of punches, kicks, and screams. Yi Axayan's eyebrows jumped. The person she admired the most was Qin Yu. Look at him, he looked handsome, and his smile was especially harmless. Damn, this guy was a black-bellied and cunning fox man. Yi Kanhuan and Lin Ruo, these weirdos, were taught a lesson by Qin Yu. Needless to say, other than the king, Su, Yi Axayan was most worried about encountering Qin Yu, who was nicknamed the Eternal Second. Of course, there was also the third dangerous person, the mysterious Su Rui. Maybe other than Su Wan, no one knew how strong Su Rui was. Even Su didn't dare to say he knew. You guys are so early. Is everyone here? Saying this, Yi Axayan looked around. Other than the rebirth department, the transmigration department, the female and male supporting roles were here too. It's about time. We're just waiting for that master. Qin Yu clearly wasn't friendly when he mentioned Su. The enemy's enemy was a friend. The reason why the Rebirth Department and Destruction Department had maintained a close friendship all these years was because they had a common enemy, the Restoration Department. The Restoration Department and Destruction Department were natural enemies. As for Qin Yu and Su, they seemed to be natural enemies. However, Qin Yu would always be suppressed by Su. Other people would never understand the sorrow of being the Eternal Second. Adonis. Just as Yi Axayan and Qin Yu were talking, the door of the headquarters opened automatically again, and 3 men walked in side by side. The leader was as gentle as jade. He wore a well-tailored black suit, but his whole body exuded an otherworldly aura of a banished immortal. Su, the king of the Lost Spaces mission. Su attracted everyone's attention as soon as he entered. No, there was one person who didn't look at Su. Su Wan stood quietly and looked at Su Rui standing to Su's right. Su Rui looked like he was 23 or 24 years old. It seemed that after he left the Great Xia dynasty, a few more years had passed before that plane gradually collapsed and shattered. How did Su Rui live during those years? Su Wan stared at Su Rui and Su Rui was also looking at her. This was the first time he had seen his wife's true self. How should he say this? General Su was excited. As expected, my wife is the most beautiful in the world. Unfortunately, there wasn't a big bed here. General Su, what are you thinking? Cough. Actually, Su Rui just wanted to sit down and chat with Su Wan under the blankets. Chat. Understand. At this moment, it was as if the people around them didn't exist. Su Rui didn't care about the people around him. He rushed to Su Wan and lowered his head to kiss her lips without saying anything. This was the person he had been dreaming about. This was the aura and taste that he could never forget. Feeling the excitement and joy in Su Rui's kiss, Su Wan also subconsciously responded. The two tightly hugged and kissed in front of dozens of mission enforcers. Ding Jia couldn't help but widen her eyes. Damn. Adonis sure has a personality. I also want to be pressed down by a certain Adonis and have a French kiss or something. Su Rui and Su Wan acted like there was no one else around them. Yi Kanhuan seemed to have forgotten that he was injured all over by Lin Ruo. Too overbearing. Master Yi felt like he had to interact more with Su Rui in the future and learn more skills. This way, he wouldn't be far from marrying a fair, rich, and beautiful woman and reaching the peak of his life. Chapter 386. The headquarters held a trial once every 3 years. It was the biggest feast for the mission enforcers in the lost time-space. Plus, the time-space chosen for the trial this time was an ancient cultivation world. Since ancient times, cultivation had no concept of time and the cultivation world was vast. All of this increased the difficulty of the trial this time. Every mission enforcer would be randomly assigned to a different location and would have a completely different identity. If they were lucky, they might find out that they were a sect leader the moment they opened their eyes. If they were unlucky, they might not be able to cultivate for the rest of their lives and could only be ordinary mortals. Before Su Wan entered the connecting cabin, she turned her head and looked at Su Rui behind her. Their two departments were opposite each other. Su Su and Yi Xian's positions corresponded to each other. Yunxing's connecting cabin faced Ding Jiejia's cabin. Su Rui's and Su Wan's were also opposite from each other. Feeling Su Wan's line of sight, Su Rui curved his lips and gently smiled at her. "Wife, wait for me." Su Wan sensed Su Rui's intention. She smiled and turned around to enter her mission connection cabin. Then she slowly closed her eyes. Scanning mission enforcer's brain waves. Plane destroyer number 2, Su Wan. Memory sealed. Soul connection starting, ding. Successfully connected to the plane of trial. Welcome to the trial time-space, Zhangyue mainland. This trial time-space was the ancient cultivation world. There was no time limit for this trial. There were currently 54 mission enforcers in this time-space. They were allowed to kill each other. The mission enforcers who survived to the end and their departments would become the final winners. When the voice in her mind gradually dissipated, Su Wan suddenly opened her eyes. It was a pair of red gem-like eyes. Ah! Su Wan's eyes flickered, gradually turning from the initial coldness to a blank look. According to the rules of the trial, after she entered this world, although she wouldn't know the main plot and the identity of the main characters, she would at least receive the original owner's memories. But why? Her mind was in chaos. Why didn't she have any memories? And this line of sight, Su Wan looked at the lush grassland in front of her and then looked at the forest not far away. A bad feeling arose involuntarily. She tried to move her body and tried to open her mouth again. Hiss. Su Wan wanted to cry but had no tears. Although she couldn't find a mirror and couldn't see her full appearance, she already knew her identity in this world by looking at her body covered in dark green scales and her burnt red tail. She was a snake, an ancient era's green bamboo snake, also known as the modern poisonous bamboo snake. Hee hee. Right now, only these two words could perfectly express Su Wan's current mood. Su Wan dragged her small dark green snake body and slid on the grassland for a while. In the end, she stopped under a big tree. The edge of this forest couldn't be seen at a glance. As a snake, the original owner's mind was also muddled. The current Su Wan could be said to have difficulty moving forward. Su Wan sighed in her heart. She raised her head and looked at the tree in front of her, her gaze full of suspicion. It was clearly midsummer, but this plum tree was blooming with very bright plum blossoms, red like blood. While Su Wan was staring at the plum tree, a tender female voice suddenly rang in her mind. "What are you looking at? Have you never seen plum blossoms before?" Su Wan thought she'd seen many plum blossoms, but she'd never seen one so bright in summer. Just as Su Wan was talking to herself in her heart, that female voice sounded again. "Little snake, you can actually understand my words. Oh my God." Finally, someone, no, a snake is chatting with me. Right now, Su Wan was also very shocked. She didn't think that the plum tree could actually hear her unspoken criticism. As the saying goes, everything has a spirit. Could this be a rare tree spirit? You're a tree spirit. Su Wan couldn't help but raise her head to look at the plum tree in front of her and ask loudly. Wrong, not a spirit. I'm an immortal. Do you understand a flower immortal? Plum blossom immortal. Inexperienced little snake. Plum blossom immortal, so it wasn't the plum tree that had a spirit but the red flowers on the tree. No wonder the plum blossoms were still blooming like blood in midsummer. So it's a plum blossom immortal. Fairy, I've also just gained a spirit. Can you tell me where this place is? Su-won was really happy to finally meet someone she could communicate with. At least, she had to figure out where she was first. That's a long story. Little Plum Blossom was the same as Su-won. She also finally met someone she could talk to. She appeared really excited. Little snake, little snake. Climb up and I'll tell you. It's too tiring to talk like this. Su-won, she's a lazy flower. Su-won walked around the tree and then moved her tail. Her entire body coiled around the plum tree. Moments later, she arrived next to Little Plum Blossom. Seeing Su-won's sparkling red eyes, Little Plum Blossom's voice became lighter. This is the famous Wonyao Mountain. Wonyao Mountain. The demon realm. Su-won's gaze flickered but she didn't move. She continued to listen to Little Plum Blossom. Wonyao Mountain stretches for thousands of miles and there are countless demons. The 100,000 mountains are under the jurisdiction of the Demon Emperor. Of course, we're just at the outermost border of Wonyao Mountain. Little snake, do you know? Outside of Wonyao Mountain is the Medicinal Valley. There are many alchemists living there. They hate us the most. They often sneak into Wonyao Mountain to pick medicinal herbs and treasures. Saying this, Plum Blossom's tone suddenly turned a bit worried. Right. You're a green bamboo snake, right? A green bamboo snake king was captured a while ago. He's not your relative, right? No. Su-won answered gloomily. Wonyao Mountain, Medicinal Valley. These were places that existed in the cultivation world, but according to Su-won's experience, these two places usually didn't produce main characters. However, with the existence of the Medicinal Valley, the main character might appear here at any time. In this world, all the mission enforcers had to find their opponents and kill them. In this cultivation world where the strong preyed on the weak, only powerful people could survive. Therefore, whoever was randomly assigned a good identity would have the upper hand. But this wasn't the most important factor in deciding victory or defeat. Often, the important person who decided victory or defeat in a world was the main character of this world. He was someone with great luck. As long as he followed the main character, he would have endless opportunities and his luck would be heaven-defying. Who was the main character of this world? And where was he? Right now, in a bustling town in the Yen country, 100,000 miles away from Wonyao Mountain, the 5th-rank cultivation sect, Guyu sect, was recruiting new disciples in the center of the town. A large group of boys and girls flocked over. Against the crowd, a 13 or 14-year-old youth in tattered clothes walked back with a lonely expression. He failed again. This was the 5th time this year. As expected, no sect was willing to accept disciples with mixed spiritual roots. Even the lowest 5th-rank sect rejected him time and time again. The youth, Hanyu, wore a desolate expression. While he was in a daze, someone quickly ran past him. Hanyu, who was thin and weak, fell to the ground. His forehead hit a rock at the side and the blood dripping from his head landed on a small bronze cauldron pendant that Hanyu wore on his chest. The small cauldron instantly absorbed Hanyu's blood and flashed a strange red light. Hanyu didn't notice this accident. He stood up and tore off a piece of cloth to stop the blood on his forehead. Then he stumbled towards his home. At this moment, in this bustling town, not a single person knew that an armament master whose name would shake the entire continent would be born here. Chapter 387. When Hanyu used his blood to awaken the spirit of the small cauldron that he had been wearing, in the distant Kunlun immortal realm, in the secret chamber of the first-grade sect Tianyun sect, an old man with white hair and beard suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were shining, he appeared. Heavenly Z looked at the star chart surrounded by purple aura and exclaimed, his gaze excited. Sinister's destined person, the hope of the entire Tsangyue mainland, that person appeared. He stood up excitedly, but in the next second, Heavenly Z's expression suddenly changed. Purple aura came from the east. It was supposed to be a sign of the birth of the Son of Heaven, but in an instant, black aura covered the sky. The nebula was in chaos. This was the warning that the world was going to be in chaos. How did this happen? Heavenly Z closed his eyes and silently chanted Tianyun Sek's prophecy spell. Not long after, the star chart in front of him started spinning and changing. A ball of black aura slowly rose and landed in the west and north. That was, pft. Heavenly Z spat out a mouthful of blood and the entire star chart crumbled into dust. West, Wanya Mountains Devil Region. Extreme North, Ghost Netherworlds region where the ghost race gathered. Could it be that demons and ghosts would appear in these two places in a chaotic world? Heavenly Z didn't even have time to wipe the blood from his lips before he hurriedly left his secret room. As soon as he reached the door, he ignited the sex message talisman. Heavenly Z's deep and aged voice came from the talisman. All elders and protectors of Tianyun sect, gather at the sect's main hall immediately. Tianyun sect's urgent message officially opened the curtains to a chaotic era, Wanyao Mountain. Ever since Su Wan got to know Little Plum Blossom Immortal, the snake and the flower became good friends. Green Bamboo Snake didn't have any cultivation methods in its original memories. Thankfully, Su Wan remembered a lot of cultivation chants from other cultivation worlds. She cultivated under the plum blossom tree every day. It was said that there was no time in the mountains. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. In these 10 years, Su Wan had just reached the 5th stage of qi refining. This speed was ridiculous. But the only good thing about this place was that it was very quiet. In the 10 years they had been here, she and the plum blossom had not been disturbed by the outside world. One had to know that in the Thousand Demon Mountain, the rules set down by the Demon King were very strict. All the demons, unless they had a life and death enmity, were not allowed to harm their own kind. If there really was a conflict that could not be resolved, then it would be supervised by the 4 great demon generals, and they would compete in the arena of the Thousand Demon Mountain. Compared to the human cultivators who killed each other, the demon clan was clearly more united and friendly. Right now, Su Wan's entire snake body was much longer than when she had just entered the mission. The tiny scales on her body also began to emit a dark green light. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't anxious. But Su Wan knew that she didn't have time to think so much. What she needed to do was to cultivate, and cultivate. Of course, ensuring his own safety was also a major prerequisite. In these 10 years, she had heard many notifications in her head. Originally, there were 54 mission enforcers, but 20 had been eliminated in the past 10 years. This was a very terrifying number. This situation was enough to prove one point. There was definitely someone with an extremely high status among these mission enforcers. Plus, that person might be an evil cultivator or a ghost cultivator. Only this kind of identity could allow him to start a massacre so unscrupulously. In the end, who could it be? Could it be him? Su's name flashed in Su Wan's mind. In the past, every time she thought of this name and this man, she would feel a bone-piercing pain. But this time, she didn't know why, but she didn't feel that much pain. Su Wan was at a loss about this. Why was it like this? She kept feeling like there was something wrong with her memory. There was clearly something important that she couldn't forget, but she seemed to have forgotten about it. This doubt had been bothering her, making her cultivation progress even slower. In the end, Su Wan had no choice but to forcibly suppress these doubts at the bottom of her heart and force herself to focus on cultivation and not think about those things. After a while, her heart finally calmed down. Little snake, Plum Blossom's voice suddenly rang above Su-won's head, carrying fear and despair. Little snake, hurry and run. He's here. He's here. Who was he? Feeling the despair and nervousness in Plum Blossom's mind, Su-won immediately coiled her snake body around the tree and looked into the distance. Right now, her vision was much better than 10 years ago. Su-won could see the figures slowly walking over from afar. They were all wearing white robes. These robes were Medicinal Valley. Su-won recalled that Plum Blossom had mentioned the people from Medicinal Valley many times. She said that regardless of gender, they all wore white robes. Don't be afraid. Maybe they're just here to pick herbs. I'll hide well. Don't make a sound. They won't notice us. Su-won comforted Plum Blossom, but unfortunately, Plum Blossom sounded like she was about to cry. It's useless, it's useless. It's him. He's here. 10 years ago, he said that he would take my life and cook me to be used as a medicinal primer. It's that person. Plum Blossom would never forget the man who waved his sleeves and defeated the Green Bamboo Snake King 10 years ago. At that time, he noticed her but he didn't do anything. Little fellow, I'll come and see you in 10 years. Coincidentally, I'm still lacking a flower spirit in my primer. 10 years had passed but that person was still as beautiful as an immortal. Though the man's smile made the world pale in comparison, little Plum Blossom felt really scared and hopeless thinking about how he was going to use her as a primer. She's hopeless. She's hopeless. She's going to die. She can't become an immortal anymore. So, little snake, hurry and run. You're my only friend. Su-won hesitated for the first time hearing Plum Blossom's voice. She and Plum Blossom had depended on each other for the past 10 years. Naturally, they had deep feelings for each other, but the person that Plum Blossom was talking about seemed to be really strong. If she acted rashly, she'd be in trouble. Escaping on her own was naturally the best way. She shouldn't have hesitated, but Su-won hesitated for a bit. In the end, she looked at the Plum Blossom. Little Plum Blossom, give up on this tree. I'll take you and hide first. Though little Plum Blossom was nurtured on this tree, she had her own consciousness and divine sense now. She had the ability to leave the tree. Little Plum Blossom hesitated hearing Su-won's suggestion. Don't hesitate. We'll have a chance to come back after they leave. Su-won's tone was a bit urgent. Okay. Plum Blossom nodded. Then a bright red plum blossom floated down and landed on Su-won's head. Little snake, hurry and leave. Hurry and leave. That person is a pervert. Pervert. Cough, cough. At this moment, a certain pervert had already walked nearby. He stared at the red plum tree, which was withering at a speed visible to the naked eye, and a hint of a smile flashed across his eyes. It seems like the little fellow escaped. The white-clothed man couldn't help but chuckle. Master Mo. The attendant heard the man's words and couldn't help but ask, then didn't we come here for nothing? If we go any further, we'll be in the 4 great demon generals' territory. Once she escapes, it'll be hard for us to catch her. Don't worry. She can't escape. Young Master Mo was still smiling. Then, he waved his sleeves lightly. In an instant, starting from under his feet, the grass withered and the flowers withered. The originally lush grassland was instantly scorched black. Chapter 388. The weeds and flowers withered instantly. Su-won hadn't escaped far with the plum blossom, but the path in front of her was blocked by the burnt color. If you looked down from the sky right now, you'd see the burnt color spreading from Master Mo's feet to both sides, forming a black circle, blocking Su Wan's path. She and the plum blossom were trapped in this burnt black circle. The strange blackness was mixed with a terrifying poisonous mist. At this moment, the black mist was slowly spreading in all directions. Such a vicious move. Su Wan subconsciously retreated. But in the next second, her snake body flew out uncontrollably. Her entire body was in someone's hands. Su Wan's scarlet eyes widened, and when she turned her head, she met a pair of clear and warm eyes. This pair of eyes had no sorrow, no joy, no desire, and no desire. It should clearly be a pair of pure and dirty bright eyes, but strangely revealed a bit of charm. This pair of eyes, this feeling. Su Wan froze. She was too familiar with this kind of emotionless gaze. It was similar to that person. He also had a gentle temperament. Su Wan hated everything. Almost in an instant, Su Wan's body reacted faster than her brain. Perhaps this was an animal's first instinct when encountering an enemy. She twisted her body and bit Master Mo's arm with her poisonous fangs. In an instant, his white clothes were dyed with blood, looking exceptionally enchanting. Ha! Seeing the blood on his sleeves, Master Mo merely smiled gently. Little fellow, does my blood taste good? Drink my ass. My ass. Su Wan felt like she was in a trance. Master Mo Wei's smiling face gradually became blurry. Little snake. Little snake, don't sleep. Plum Blossom's anxious and immature voice rang in her ears. Ah, I forgot to tell you. He's a poison cultivator. His blood is poisonous. Su Wan was speechless. Why didn't you tell me earlier? What's called harming a teammate? This was, Master Mo's gaze flickered seeing the emerald green bamboo snake coiled around his arm. He stared at Su Wan strangely for a while. Sob, 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 the little snake died. Sob, 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 so pitiful, sob, 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 Plum Blossom no longer has any friends. Master Mo finally came back to his senses. He smiled and looked at the red plum blossom on the snake's head. He asked softly, who said she's dead? Master Mo's eyes were filled with a childish and sweet voice. What? Hearing Master Mo's words, the plum blossoms were excited. The red petals were trembling non-stop. She didn't die. That's great. To be precise, she won't die for the time being. If I hadn't saved her, she would still be dead after 24 hours. Master Mo said faintly, the smile on his face unchanged. One couldn't tell that he was talking about something as important as life and death. You, humans are so annoying. Plum Blossom's voice carried a hint of anger. Then, her tone softened. Then, can you save her? Didn't you want to capture me? She's useless to you. She's a poisonous snake. Her meat isn't delicious. Master Mo lifted his brows and looked at the little flower fairy with interest. Cough. Actually, I've been thinking about it. The green bamboo snake's gallbladder can be used as medicine too. Plus, she has cultivation. She's at the 5th stage of refinement, right? This spirit snake's meat is good stuff. Sob, sob, sob. Little Plum Blossom immediately started crying. Please don't eat the little snake. Don't dig out her gallbladder. I'll find another snake for you, okay? How about this? Master Mo's gaze flickered seeing how pitiful the little flower fairy was crying. I'll choose one of you to use in medicine. How about you choose? Me. Little Plum Blossom stopped crying but her petals kept trembling. Then, you should just eat me. The little snake is really smart. She's really powerful. If she's alive, she'll definitely be able to cultivate into a human and take revenge for me. As for me, I'm so stupid. I won't be able to become an immortal or a human even after 10,000 years. Little Plum Blossom knew about this. In fact, Suwon had been helping her with her cultivation for the past 10 years. Little Plum Blossom didn't have her own cultivation method. Ever since she gained intelligence, she vaguely knew that she wanted to cultivate and become an immortal. As for why she wanted to do this, she had no memory. She kept fumbling around, cultivating alone until she met Suwon 10 years ago. She had to repay the favor of receiving water from someone. Amen. Although Little Plum Blossom didn't know why she knew this, her heart told her that she had to save Suwon. She had to save her. Suwon's life was much more important than her own. Right. That's how she felt. You're such a loyal and affectionate little fellow. Master Mo smiled and waved his hand, holding Little Plum Blossom in his palm. Since that's the case, I'll reluctantly agree to your request. Saying this, Master Mo waved his hand and let Little Plum Blossom land on his shoulder. Then he bent his arm and wrapped Suwon's entire body in his embrace. Go back. Master Mo ordered in a low voice and immediately left with his entourage. Not long after they left, a tall tiger and a cheetah rushed over from the depths of the forest. I'm late. The cheetah slowly opened its mouth and then transformed into a young woman with a sexy figure. It's Master Mo's doing. The ferocious tiger also transformed into a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He took Xiao Mei away. The woman's tone was a little anxious. If the demonic sovereign comes back and asks about this, how are we going to explain it to him? Let's chase them. If you and I work together, we still have a chance against Master Mo. Just as the two of them were about to give chase, a sudden gust of wind blew and a slender, snow-white figure suddenly appeared before them. Your Majesty. Seeing that familiar figure, the two immediately knelt down and said in a terrified tone, Your Majesty, Xiao Mei, I know everything. Don't go after them. Don't worry about them. Go back. Yes. The two demon generals froze hearing the demon sovereign's words. In the end, they turned and left. White Knight Demon Sovereign stood in the same spot, staring at the withered plum tree. It's been 5,000 years. This moment is finally here. White Knight waved his hands and the withered plum tree instantly turned into a pile of dirt. 5,000 years. To White Knight, who was over 10,000 years old, it wasn't a short period of time. 5,000 years. How many seas turned into mulberry fields and how many beauties turned into withered bones? My master, my wife. When will you guys wake up? Chapter 389. The medicinal valley was located at the shore of the West Sea, right next to Wanyao Mountain. It was a place where the essence of heaven and earth gathered. Master Mo brought Suwon and Little Plum Blossom back to his residence in the medicinal valley. This was an independent courtyard. Before they even entered, they could smell the fragrance of spiritual medicine. Master, you're back. Before Master Mo could enter, a surprised voice rang from the courtyard. Then countless vines flew over to welcome them. Feeling the dangerous demonic aura, Little Plum Blossom couldn't help but scream and shrink behind Master Mo. Such a terrifying aura. It should be, Joe, quiet down. Master Mo smiled and comforted the vines. Hearing his words, the vines all shrank back. Then Joe's aggrieved voice rang, Master, I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. Saying this, Joe moved closer to Master Mo. Her original form was a man-eating flower taller than a person. Right now, this colorful man-eating flower was leaning against Master Mo and acting cute. Master, they bullied me when you weren't here. They didn't give me food to eat. I'm so pitiful. Emin. What is this? A poisonous snake. Although it's poisonous, I don't mind. Is this food you gave me? Master, you're so nice. You. Before Joe could finish, Master Mo had already left with Su-won in his arms. He returned to his room and tossed little plum blossom onto Joe's leaves before closing the door. Help me look after her first. Don't scare her. Oh. Joe responded a few times. After confirming that Master Mo had left, she quickly moved to the corner of the wall and said in a low voice, "Humph, a little plum blossom dares to fight for my favor. Which path are you from? Have you eaten people before? Have you drunk blood before?" Plum Blossom was speechless. Little snake, hurry and save me. This big flower sister is so scary. Hey! While little Plum Blossom was shivering, Joe had already lowered her flower and continued, "Don't think that you can get Master's favor just because you're small and cute. I'm telling you, Master never raises trash. You've never even drunk blood before and you want to compete with me? Humph. Drink blood. Wasn't it just drinking blood? Do flowers need to drink blood too?" Little Plum Blossom was at a loss. She had to admit that there were two people who had influenced her the most in the countless years she had spent cultivating to become an immortal. The first person was Su-won. She was the first friend she made after she opened her spiritual wisdom. She could entrust her life to her. The second person who deeply influenced her was Joe. She taught her how to become a ferocious plum blossom, eating people and sucking blood. Ayaya, that's Big Sister Joe's specialty. Little Plum Blossom actually learned it as she watched. Of course, this was in the future. Right now, the young and innocent little Plum Blossom was trembling in fear. At this time, Master Mo had soaked Su-won's snake body in his medicinal bucket. She was still unconscious, but her breathing was very stable. Master Mo's gaze landed on Su-won's tail. There was a faintly discernible golden pattern at the front of the burnt red tail. Right now, the golden color was emitting a gentle light. The light was continuously repairing Su-won's body. This golden light was, seeing the golden light, Master Mo froze. He subconsciously lifted his hand, wanting to touch the golden light, but then he retracted his hand as if he was electrocuted. Danger! The golden light carried an unfathomable and dangerous aura. Then, what was it? Master Mo's gaze landed on Su-won again. He should have killed her in the forest, but why couldn't he do it all of a sudden? What was that particularly familiar feeling? He sighed, turned to the side, summoned his Yao refining furnace from his storage bag, and silently refined the antidote. 4 hours later. Su-won's consciousness gradually sobered up. She felt that her body was warm and there was a very special and very comfortable heat swimming in her body. That was spiritual aura. No, not spiritual aura. It was something thousands of times better than spiritual aura. Could it be immortal aura? Su-won was shocked by her guess. This wasn't the immortal realm. Where did so many immortals come from? Plus, Zhangyue mainland had been silent for thousands of years. The resources were lacking and the number of cultivation sects was decreasing. It had been close to 1,000 years since a cultivator had ascended to immortality. Cultivation was hard and becoming an immortal was even harder. Su-won slowly opened her eyes to find that she was lying on a big bed. Her snake body was curled up and Master Mo was sitting by the bed, looking at her motionlessly. Seeing that she was awake, he couldn't help but smile. He lifted his hand and placed a blood-red medicinal pill in front of her. Eat this. It's good for you. Su-won nodded. I'm fine. Su-won couldn't help but swallow her saliva when she smelled the fragrant spiritual aura coming from the medicinal pill. Such abundant spiritual aura. The people from the medicinal valley were amazing. But, why did you save me? Where's little Plum Blossom? Su-won wouldn't be fooled by Master Mo's small favors. Her mind was still clear. Although her cultivation couldn't allow her to make a real human voice, she could use her mental power to communicate with anyone a long time ago. Master Mo replied indifferently, I promised her that I would save you. In exchange, I'm going to use her to refine medicine. Hearing Master Mo's words, Su-won's expression changed. Why was little Plum Blossom so dumb? She did it for me. Is she dead or alive right now? Su-won immediately asked a question. Master Mo chuckled. She's still alive. That's good. Su-won breathed a sigh of relief. Then she moved her body and tossed the pill back into Master Mo's hands. I don't want your pill. You didn't save my life either. Therefore, cancel your deal right now. Master Mo's heart sank. Ah. Master Mo looked at Su-won darkly. You think you have the final say in the medicinal valley? Oh. Then you're going back on your word. Are the people from the medicinal valley so shameless? Su-won sat up and straightened her head. Her red eyes stared at Master Mo's face. How about this? Little Plum Blossom and I will sign a contract and work for you for 10 years. What do you think? Don't tell me that you have to use her as medicine. If you really had to use her, you wouldn't have let her off 10 years ago. 10 years of labor. Master Mo smiled at Su-won. You're the one who wants to cultivate in my courtyard, right? Do you know how much my medicinal herbs are worth? You can't even buy half a stalk of Ascension Immortal Grass with 10 of them. That's for you. To me, the medicinal herbs in your courtyard aren't as precious as one of my scales. Su-won lifted her head and replied coldly. Master Mo was speechless. As a snake, was it okay for you to be so conceited? Master Mo didn't expect that Su-won's joke today would come true in the future. Don't mention using the courtyard's treasures. Even if you used the entire Tsangyue mainland's treasures, it wouldn't be as precious as one of her scales in his heart. Chapter 390. Far North, Ghost Netherworld Region. Ghost Chi lingered in the main hall of the Ghost Imperial City. The Ghost King sat on the white bone throne, his entire face hidden in black fog. My king. The people in Kunlun Immortal Realm have been mobilized frequently recently. The Ghost Clan spies in the 3 major sects have sent back news that the 3 major sects seem to be stepping up the training of new people, and they plan to attack our Ghost Netherworld region soon. The Ghost General, who was covered in black fog, knelt on the ground and reported in a low voice. The Ghost King, who was sitting on the white bone throne, smiled sinisterly when he heard his subordinate's report. His old voice was filled with endless coldness. My son, what do you think of this matter? Hearing the Ghost King's call, a slender figure slowly emerged from the endless darkness. The black fog dissipated, revealing an extremely evil and devilish face. He was as handsome as a god, but he had a pair of dark, bloodthirsty eyes that contained endless viciousness. Father, please allow me to leave the ghost realm with Ziyi and go to Kunlun to investigate. It was a cold male voice, sexy and alluring. Hearing his son's words, the Ghost King laughed 3 times. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. Go ahead. Remember to return with a full load on this trip to the human world. Yes. I will not let you down. As he spoke, the slender figure was shrouded in black fog again and slowly disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already in another hole. Your Highness. Seeing his figure appear, a ghost cultivator in purple clothes immediately ran to him respectfully. Ziyi, a ghost cultivator in the Golden Elixir realm, was also one of the best among the young ghost cultivators in the Ghost Netherworld region. Pack up and leave the ghost realm with me. Also, don't call me your highness outside. Yes, young master. Looking at the back of the ghost realm's prince, Ziyi lowered her eyes, and a deep light flashed in her purple eyes. Could she finally leave this damn place? Where were the others? Ziyi didn't dare to think too much and immediately put away her thoughts. This was the Ghost Netherworld region. What she needed to do now was to play the role of Ziyi. She, who had inherited the original owner's memory, naturally knew that the original owner had a crush on her highness, Yi Qing. And Yi Qing, could he be a mission enforcer? Ziyi didn't know, because the current Yi Qing was exactly the same as the original owner's memory. If he really was a mission enforcer, it could only mean that his acting skills had already reached the pinnacle. As Ziyi's mind raced, she did not notice that a pair of cold eyes had been watching her from behind in the darkness, West Sea, Medicine Valley. In the end, Master Mo actually agreed to Su Wan's request. He allowed her and Little Plum Blossom to cultivate here. Of course, at the same time, they had to help Master Mo take care of his medicinal field. When the valiant Jiao saw that her master took in 2 servants at once, she immediately felt her heart suffered 10,000 points of damage. Master, you don't love me anymore, you definitely don't love me anymore, you definitely don't love me anymore, you, og. Jiao watched as Master Mo tossed out over 10 bloody corpses from his storage bag. Jiao's eyes widened and all her branches danced excitedly. I knew Master loves me the most. He loves me the most. Yi Mo's expression changed drastically. Yi Mo didn't know what to say. As she spoke, her twigs danced wildly, rolling up the 10 or so bloody corpses and throwing them onto her flower plate. Little Plum Blossom hid behind Su Wan and covered her eyes with 2 flower petals. Seeing the bloody scene and the blood splattering everywhere, Little Plum Blossom hid behind Su Wan. Too cruel, too bloody, it didn't seem like much. Su Wan didn't look at Jiao's expression. She just stared at Master Mo strangely. He looked so gentle, but why did she feel a trace of tyranny from him just now? Was it an illusion? No, it didn't seem like it. Could he be, mission enforcer? These 3 words flashed through Su Wan's mind. She herself had become a little snake without memories. This was the worst situation, but it was also the best. Because she had no past, no family, no memories. She had to rely on herself to shape everything. What about other people? They inherited the original body's memories, so they had to act according to the original body's lifestyle. They had to wrap themselves up tightly and act flawlessly. After all, no one knew where their enemy was. Furthermore, this was the cultivation world, and things like possession were common. If you behaved too strangely, not to mention the mission enforcers, even your fellow apprentices or elders in the sect would quickly become suspicious. At that time, your situation would be even worse. Therefore, was Master Mo a mission enforcer? Or was he a strange person that people couldn't figure out? Su Wan's gaze flickered. She knew that she had to be careful. Even if Master Mo wasn't a mission enforcer, the Medicinal Valley was definitely a map that the protagonist would visit. There must be 1 or even more mission enforcers hidden here. What she needed to do was to lower her presence and work hard to cultivate so that she could transform into a human as soon as possible. Just like that, Su Wan and Little Plum Blossom settled down in Master Mo's courtyard. Their residence was Jiao's enormous body. Jiao was speechless. Not only did you guys steal my master, but you're also using my branches as your bed? Sniffle. Jiao is so pitiful. No one loves me. I want to eat people. But a month later. Right. Little Plum Blossom is so smart. Sister Joe, human blood can make my color brighter. I like it. Humph, Joe immediately waved her branches and leaves. Of course. In the future, you and Little Snake will follow me. I'll eat meat and you guys drink blood. We'll definitely live a carefree and happy life. Sue Wan was speechless. So, Joe, what have you done to Little Plum Blossom in just a month? Sue Wan was a bit speechless, but she was a bit happy inside. Little Plum Blossom had a new friend. Plus, her innocent personality wasn't good either. It was great that Joe taught her some ways to protect herself. Shao Qing. Master Mo's gentle voice suddenly rang from behind Sue Wan. Shao Qing and whatnot are the most annoying. You trash at naming. Sue Wan dished him inside, but she still curled up her snake body and turned around gloomily. Master, you're back. And Master Mo floated into the courtyard like an immortal. Sue Wan noticed that he was holding a jade box. Although the box was sealed by a talisman, a refreshing fragrance still wafted out of it. This was a top-notch treasure. Master, what is this? Sue Wan slowly moved behind Master Mo and looked curiously at the jade box in his hands. This. Master Mo smiled. There's a 10,000-year-old chalcedony fruit inside. As long as you eat one, you can increase your cultivation by 500 years and immediately transform into a human. 10,000-year-old chalcedony fruit. Chapter 391. Tsangyue mainland was vast. Other than the 4 countries in the mortal world, the other areas were all cultivators' territories. Besides the medicinal valley and Wanyao Mountain, there were naturally some unranked sects scattered around. Most of them were small sects formed by individual cultivators. The truly large sects gathered in Kunlun Paradise. That was the gathering place for cultivators in Tsangyue mainland. It was also the center of the entire Tsangyue mainland. In the extreme north of Tsangyue mainland, it was the ghost clan's gathering place. The ghost chi was dense and hundreds of ghosts walked at night. In the extreme south of Tsangyue mainland was the Red Sea. The sea there was boundless and there were demonic beasts roaming the sea. It was a forbidden area for cultivators. As for the east of Tsangyue mainland, it was the best place for disciples to train, the Sunset Wasteland. That was where evil cultivators gathered and also a battlefield filled with killing and plundering. Sue Wan had nothing to do in the medicinal valley these past few days. Other than studying the distribution of forces on the mainland, she was also studying Master Mo's medicinal herbs. Cultivating in this courtyard filled with spiritual qi, her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. She was now at the peak of the refinement realm. If she had a foundation establishment pill or other spiritual medicine, Sue Wan was confident that she could break through to the foundation establishment realm. Seeing Master Mo bring back a 10,000-year-old chalcedony fruit, she would be lying if she said she wasn't moved. But Master Mo's cultivation was unfathomable. Sue Wan suspected that he had entered the nascent soul realm or even higher. She wasn't his opponent at all. Seeing Sue Wan's scarlet eyes darting around, Master Mo smiled faintly. Shao Qing, do you want to eat it? I do, but I'm afraid I can't afford such a precious treasure. Sue Wan shook her head softly. Master Mo smiled faintly hearing her words. That's right. I spent a lot of effort to get this chalcedony fruit. It's used to save someone's life. That's right. Saying this, Master Mo's gaze gradually softened. One person, Sue Wan froze. Master Mo was a rare poison doctor in the medicinal valley. Everyone in the medicinal valley respected and feared him. In this huge valley, Suwon really didn't think that Master Mo had too much contact with anyone. However, Jo seemed to have mentioned something. She said that there was a cultivation room in Master Mo's room and there seemed to be an ice coffin inside. The person Master Mo wanted to save was in the coffin. Who could it be? The 10,000-year-old chalcedony fruit could revive the dead and regrow flesh and bones. It was such a waste to give such a precious thing to one person. Suwon secretly sighed in her heart. Damn it, after you guys finish eating the meat, let me drink some soup. I don't need much. As long as I can bite it once, I can gain 500 years of cultivation. 500 years. No, I have to think of a way. As the saying goes, seeking wealth amidst danger. Suwon thought about how to get a little bit of the 10,000-year-old chalcedony fruit from Master Mo without arousing his suspicions. At this time, Master Mo had returned to his room. He carefully opened the door to the secret room with the jade box. What appeared before him was a simple and clean cultivation room. There was a transparent ice coffin in the middle of the room. This was refined from the East Sea's 1,000-year-old ice. It could protect a person's body and consciousness for thousands of years. Master Mo slowly walked to the ice coffin. Through the light blue ice, he could faintly see a person's silhouette inside. It was a girl who looked like she was 7 years old. Master Mo stared at the girl in the coffin. In his mind, certain memories became clearer and clearer. Brother, carry me. Brother, you're the best. Brother, I don't want to die. That's right. The person in the coffin was Master Mo's sister. She had been sleeping here for decades, and her appearance was still the same as when she was 7 years old. Sister. It was a strange yet familiar word that made people feel close. Master Mo opened the ice coffin and then took out the 10,000-year-old chalcedony fruit from the jade box. The crystal-clear fruit emitted an alluring fragrance. Hesitation flashed across Master Mo's jade-like face as he held the chalcedony fruit. For some reason, he suddenly thought of the little green snake's eyes filled with endless desire. Those eyes. Master Mo sliced off a piece of the fruit and placed it in the jade box. Naturally, he placed the rest by his sister's lips. He used his chi to guide her so that she could slowly eat the fruit. Not long later, the girl in the ice coffin's face had some color. The 10,000-year-old chalcedony fruit lived up to its name. However, she had been in a deep sleep for too long. She wouldn't be able to wake up anytime soon. Master Mo turned and left the cultivation room. After the door closed, a black shadow darted to the side of the ice coffin. Cough. This shadow was none other than Suwon. Master Mo seemed to be absent-minded just now. Suwon took advantage of this and entered the cultivation room. Then she concealed her aura and carefully hid. Thankfully, this was his home, so Master Mo didn't seem to be too vigilant. Plus, when he left in a hurry, he didn't use his divine sense to scan the entire room. This allowed Suwon to smoothly pass. At this time, Suwon's entire snake body had drilled into the ice coffin and wrapped around the little girl's body. Feeling the aura of the 10,000-year-old chalcedony fruit, Suwon slightly hesitated. This girl looked similar to Master Mo. Could she be his sister? After all, Suwon had never heard that Master Mo had a cultivation partner. A single dog that didn't even have a cultivation partner naturally wouldn't have a precious creature like a daughter. Feeling the little girl's aura becoming more and more stable, Suwon couldn't help but mutter inside, "You won't be able to use all of this anyways. Why don't you give me some? If I don't die in the future, I'll naturally repay you and your sister." Thinking like this, Suwon already lightly blew a mouthful of air at the little girl's lips. Immediately, the fruit essence that had yet to be absorbed transformed into a light green spiritual energy that wrapped around Suwon and the little girl in the profound ice coffin. The millennium-old chalcedony fruit's effects were too overbearing. By the time Su-won felt her body heating up and about to explode from the overflowing spiritual aura, she couldn't stop anymore. An endless stream of spiritual chi filled every corner of the cultivation room. By the time Master Mo returned to the cultivation room with a cold expression, he only saw a light green cocoon. It was still expanding, as if it was going to fill up the entire space. A cold glint flashed in Master Mo's eyes. He placed his palm outside the cocoon and the overflowing spiritual aura immediately entered his body through his palm. Slowly, the cocoon calmed down. Master Mo looked at the two vague figures inside the cocoon and couldn't help but furrow his brows. As expected, she was a restless little snake. So much for leaving her a piece of the fruit, planning on refining it into a pill for her. If it wasn't someone with a special bloodline, normal cultivators wouldn't be able to enjoy such a treasure. Let alone a little snake in the refinement realm. Thinking of this, Master Mo's gaze darkened. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.